Hello and welcome to a very special tier list today. We got the World Eaters Codex. It's finally out and we actually have time to play it in this edition, unlike last edition. And so for this very special moment, I wanted to be joined by only the best of the World Eaters people. I invited Brian Doherty from the Red Path to come and join me on some World Eaters adventure. He's a man who knows his World Eaters, and so I'm interested in your opinion. How you doing, Brian?
Good. Like, as you mentioned, I'm fairly a baby to this game. Like, I started playing around the tail end of 9th edition. I got my Codex, and then I got it taken away from me. Now I got my Codex again. So I'm just, like, really excited to finally have, like, even, like, from the 9th edition Codex to this one, tons of detachments, a lot more play space than the 9th edition Codex. Doesn't mean it's better or worse. But I'm just saying that like there's a lot to play around with, and I'm really excited to like get diving deep into the data sheets, the attachments, all the weird, cool combos, kind of all that stuff I didn't really get to play around with much.
Yeah, 100%. For an army that's like mono aggro, like just go at your opponent and kill them as a playstyle identity, they really found a way to mess with it and really give you a lot of different things you can do.
Yeah, I feel like each of the detachments offers their own, like, and that's what I really wanted from our Codex, was to have multiple viable detachments that have just unique, flavorful playstyles that aren't just weird skews, and that's what we got. Like,
yeah, but if you want your weird skews, man, you can have them.
You can still do it, which is good.
So we're also going to be recording a ranking of all the different detachments in the book, going over what they do well, what they do poorly. So this is going to be it's just going to be a World Eater-y time, and I'm really looking forward to it. All right, so ripping the Band-Aid off, and as you said before the stream, we're gonna start with Angron. What do you think of Big Daddy Red?
So we were a proponent on the Red Path we wanted to see some sort of change done to Angron's revive mechanic, right? In our eyes, it was fairly unreliable and toxic. Sometimes it just happened and you won the game on the spot. There were ways to make it more reliable, which still felt like coin flips. Like if you got a Lord of Skulls and some icons going, like you could get it to like 50-60% chance he comes back. Yeah, it still feels bad that he does or doesn't. It doesn't feel great. I would have liked to have seen like his revive reworked, not just cratered into the ground, because it wasn't. It's without being gentle, he basically doesn't have a revive. In a situation that you would be using it, you're losing the game and it's a Hail Mary back into the game.
Yeah, and I hate that he doesn't even go into strat reserves anymore, so you can't rapid ingress him. Like,
and losing all your blessings and army rules. Like, just imagine just saying that, yeah, you don't get sustained pile and consolidate 6, and you have to bang a 9-inch charge for this turn. It just doesn't feel good.
No, and you can't even fish for it with the strat, which sucks. Because it explicitly says it has to be in the start of the battle round roll, not when you kill something. And fully half the time you get him back is when you kill something, right? Because you roll again.
Losing reroll hits was huge. +1 to charge was also like something that you would pick sometimes. That was relevant for when you revived and you wanted to bang an 8-inch charge, or you just had a really risky turn and you really needed that movement. I was doing that a lot. Losing both of those really, really hurt. His third ability was kind of irrelevant, but his third ability is probably better than what his new 3 abilities are. It says something.
+1 attack if you're below starting strength, or I've literally never picked it in my life.
Yeah, it was +1 attack, which would have been fire on 20 Berserkers. But talking about him now, essentially you're not going to be reviving him unless it's a Hail Mary. In some situations, it may just confirm that you lost the game if you choose to bring him back.
Yep.
His 3 modes right now, you have a 6-inch no fallback aura that he inherited from the Exalted Eightbound.
It's a lot worse on him, unfortunately.
Fine. It's like probably the one you're in most because the other 2 don't really make sense.
Yeah, I don't care as much about particular results on the Blood Tide chart the same way I did in the past. Like, no. I want 2 of them, but I don't want one above all. You know, I don't need advance in charge or whatever. So the 6 rerolls is like, whatever. And by definition, he can't reroll to try and bring himself back.
Yeah.
Which is when you actually want it.
Since we're talking about the blessings, probably the one that you would want above all in a given situation is one of the most accessible ones anyways. Your pile and consolidate 6. That's just a double 2-up or any triple gets you that. So I mean, you're cosmically unlucky if you're not getting that anyways. So taking all that into consideration, he functionally doesn't have rules, but he is still a fantastic beat stick. He did gain dev wounds, which I think on math into like marine bodies, his sweep is technically better. His strike did lose a pip of AP, and he lost strength on both. But if you're playing Berserker Warband, which is a metric you're going to hear used a lot in Berserker Warband, he gets that back. I would say he took a massive hit. He was 435 points then. Now, I wouldn't play him until he was probably pushing low 300s, 310, 320. Yeah. And that's like a weird rapid ingress beat stick threat.
Yeah, and that's such a sad way to, like, lore accurate probably, but not in a good way. That he's just kind of runs around by himself hitting people fairly hard. I think on our review we said we'd really only want to look at him when we hit like 320-ish. It sounds like you're in the same camp. He's not 320 right now. He's 385. I mean,
look, Mortarian's 300 right now as Index Mortarian, and Index Mortarian's datasheet is probably a solid head better.
Yeah. Reroll one.
A whole tier better than Angron's current datasheet.
And ignore Mod's aura. Woo, that is that's good. And his auras are bad. So
you got the ignore movement, ignore hit, and weapon skill, which is like 1 in 10 games it might matter.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, no, I guess. I mean, especially if you're playing into Death Guard. If Death Guard's everywhere and he gets cheaper, maybe?
They're picking the AP aura anyways.
See, the thing is, they can always in the future point him to a point where I'll take him. They just can't make it where I'm happy to do so.
Yeah, it's more of like an I guess kind of I'll take him, which, I mean, if we're talking tiers, he would probably be bottom of B, upper C tier for me of like a background consideration of he might have some like weird play as a no fallback sponge in like a Jackal detachment where you're just trying to gum people up.
Okay.
That's pretty much where I'm looking at playing him.
That is anywhere. Such a sad role for the big red boy.
Just to enable Jakhals.
But this is probably going to be the saddest we're going to be on this entire thing. So like, you know, on balance,
rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, rip the Band-Aid off. I'm just gonna put him in C at that point, I guess, just so that my disappointment can be known. Angron, do better, be better. If he at the end of this tier list, if we see that he is like just not as bad as the other stuff in C tier, we can bump him up.
Yeah, we'll probably be moving some stuff around.
I would imagine.
The Army Painter is my favorite hobby company in the entire world. My desk is literally full of Army Painter products, and it takes me from being an average painter to putting above tabletop standard models out into the tournament scene. Not only that, but the Army Painter has sponsored more competitive play than any other hobby company in the industry. They allow us to keep doing the things that we do. If you enjoy the Army Painter as much as I do, head over to thearmypainter.com where you can use the discount code ARTWAR5 to get a discount on your next order.
Next up, we got the Slaughterbound, who is new and actually pretty intriguing. He does not do that much damage on his face, but he is a tremendous receiver of buffs.
Yeah, like there was a little bit of like little public outcry when his datasheet first came out because it was shown off right next to the special Death Guard character, and people were trying to draw comparisons between the two because they had nearly identical offensive profiles, except one just had more keywords. Well, this dude has more keywords; they're just in the background. And with the plethora of fantastic enhancements that are in this book, he very easily becomes a murder machine, support piece, solo killy piece, scoring piece. Like, he's kind of like a jack of all trades.
Yeah, and it's kind of nice to have a dude who reanimates guys, because everyone and their mother wants to like, oh, I have some extra shots, I'll put them into the 8-bound, pick a dude off. But if they do that, it actually hurts them because you reanimate the dude like forward and suddenly you get like an extra 4 inches of movement. And so you can keep your guys safe that way.
All sorts of shenanigans for that. And also, like, people are running Space Marine Captain solo. Right? That's the thing. This guy's just that, but faster.
Wait, he's about the same cost as a Space Marine Captain, which is kind of wild if you think about it, right? Because he just is better. If he doesn't give you the free strat, but otherwise.
If he's reviving one 8-bound model in your game, he has already done his job.
Yes. In a 6-man, I could see that happening. The 3-mans, your opponent really would have to like incidentally chip you. Although I guess in Berserker Warband, you have -1 damage. And all of a sudden you'd be like, guess what? I lived on a wound. And, I have him and a guy on 1 wound. Now I have 2 guys. Get wrecked. Because they're going to pug out their way out of that combat.
And I've been in a test game already where the 6-man with a -1 damage tanked like Wardens, made it all the way down to just 1 model in the Slaughterbound. And then that squad was completely healthy at the end of the game. Like, I think it was like 4 guys came back over the course of the game.
And at that point, that is like stonks up for this guy.
Stonks.
Stonks.
And like Blood Berserker Glaive, Arch Slaughter, any of the +1 damage enhancements, which there's multiple of in the Codex, he goes to like 10 or 11 attacks at multiple AP through the roof, dev wounds, high strength, 3 damage. It's insane. The output this guy can have too.
It's possible that that he's worth it even without an enhancement, right? That just him on his face, on his data sheet, 6 attacks base, 9 attacks with dev once is just enough, right? 85 points is pretty cheap as far as these sort of things go.
That is in the ballpark of a cheap send out in the middle early skirmishing unit that I would be satisfied with. And he's fast. He can hide really well because he's a 1 base model. If you wanted him solo or if you wanted him with tie, and that's the best part about him is you don't have to make these decisions until you actually see what you're playing against too. Like you can just on the fly choose to not attach him. And that's like perfectly valid. So I'm really impressed with the data sheet. I think it's going to work itself into a lot of World Eater lists. Currently, I'm playing multiple and my go-to list. So I actually have a very, very positive opinion of it. I don't think he's the bee's knees most broken thing ever.
No, I think he's just efficient, which is nice.
So I would say like he's like a healthy staple that you may include in your list, and you shouldn't feel bad for not doing it. But he's definitely really good.
Yeah, I think solid A tier. Yeah, that sounds right. He's just cool too. Like we got an infantry character, and that is. Listen, Death Guard got an infantry character. They didn't need more of those. They really didn't need more of those. But we did. We really needed more infantry.
Really did.
Speaking of characters, Lord Invocotus, Invo, took a pretty substantial data sheet change, honestly, but also got a pretty steep points decrease and still hits about as hard. Got the scout. the reason you took Invo in the past was to give 2 units scout and then run around as a solo killing machine. Or at least that's why I think most people took him. Now doesn't do that at all. Does not have the 6-inch give 2 units scout. Instead gives their unit deep strike and move through models and walls, which would be super interesting if he could lead crushers, but he can't. And then he has the somewhat anemic charge mortals that the Lord had and doesn't have grenades, lost 2 points to move, lost a point of armor save, but dropped 30 points. What are your opinions on Invo right now?
He's weird. He's probably the one unit in this codex that I really don't have a finger on the pulse for how he's doing. That does not mean he's bad by any means, because he did drop a substantial amount of points, as you said, Jack. But I believe he retained scout.
On his sheet, yeah.
So he still does what we wanted him to do from the index, which was be a fast, kind of like precision killing, scoring, early skirmishing unit. Like he could do all of that, but he also gives you the flexibility. Like I said, if you throw him in your list, you can choose to attach him, not attach him. He could give you really weird buffs. He could help you deep strike 20 berserkers in out of nowhere, which we are out. I'm still out in debate about whether or not that's a good plan yet. But it is a plan, and it will hurt. It is like 500 points, though.
If you deep strike 3 regular 8-bound alongside Invo, you can't be screened out, right? Because you can run right up to them. You can't, unfortunately, run past them. You move 10, you drop 9 inches.
9th edition fly. That was 9th edition fly was like, oof. That was like so good. And going from that to 10th edition fly and getting to see Invocotus basically grant that old 9th edition fly of being able to go through buildings and over stuff without movement penalties. All the complaints of us not having like jump pack intercessors, right? How great would that be? Well, you attach him to a squad and you have jump pack intercessors.
One of the big advantages of Angron in the past was that he was the one thing in your army that had fly. It could like jump a screen and get into your opponent's backfield while your front wave crashed into their like screens. And Invo does give us that capability, right? Because you can send a unit yard while the rest of your army just mops up their front line. Forgefiends also help with that a decent amount, because now we can shoot them to death and charge through. But it's interesting to have it. And at 110, Invocotus hits like a truck.
He does. That's 12 damage to attacks. Or 11 if you're outside of Berserker Warband.
Yep.
So I'm still a fan of him. Like, he will work his way into my lists probably eventually once I figure out how to best run him. My vision for him is probably either solo or with the 3-man 8-bound, like you were saying.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably where I'm at. He's bounced in and out of my lists as well. I mean, either you have Berserker Warband where he is, I mean, he went to strength 8 in Berserker Warband, which is massive. It's a huge breakpoint for killing the kind of skirmish stuff that I would usually send him after, which is great, right? You want those cheap things to go for cheap things to go forward and kill your opponent's screens so that they run out of screens early and then you get to hit real units. And then in the Demon detachment, in the Demonkin, he gets access to Twin Linked with a Dev Wounds weapon. And that gets a little scary if you're your opponent.
If you're a World Eater player, you know how good re-rolling wound rolls and Dev Wounds is.
Yes. So, I don't know. Would you put him in A or B? Where are you feeling? Because it sounds like we're waffling between those two.
I'd say probably in B, just because he's not screaming to me to be played right now, but he definitely will not be a bad choice.
Got it. Yeah, I can get behind that. I love Invo, but definitely not an auto-include anymore in the same way he used to be. But a Lord on Juggernaut, very interesting rules, very interesting changes.
His cousin.
Yeah, his little brother. Now, they move the same amount, and they are the same toughness. Well, I guess Invocotus has 8 wounds. But gives his unit move 10 and move through walls, not models, but walls, and lets them fight within 3 inches. He's still only AP 1, which I feel like he could have gone AP 2. I mean, come on, G-dubs. But
yeah, that one hurts.
Yeah, but those are some really neat rules. He doesn't slow his unit down anymore, so you can join infantry units without him bonking his head into walls.
Which is nice. And there's one specific detachment in particular that really loves what he gives.
In Khorne Demonkin, he is straight up in probably S, maybe A tier. Because he joins the unit crushers, he gives them blessings of Khorne, at least is the way the rule's currently worded. And then he lets the whole unit move through walls. And fighting within 3 is not like nothing in that. You get one dude within 1, and then you're like, I fight within 3. It can help. Outside of that, I don't know. What's your opinion on the 20 Zerker Lord Dream?
The 20 Zerkers in a Dream is definitely 20 Zerkers in a Dream. For me, I'm just concerned about hiding that many Berserkers and not having them just instantly picked up. I feel like outside of the Demonkin detachment, he's fighting the Slaughterbound a little bit for what they want to be doing.
He's not winning that fight usually, I think.
And I don't think he wins that fight. I think the Slaughter, you're talking your lore character leading 8-bound specifically, you're going to be probably looking at having him lead 8-bound. You could, if you were really feeling saucy, think about a 10-man Berserker squad with him, but I think there's just probably better things you could be doing with those points.
Yeah, like a lot of the time it's just better keeping them safe and getting them mobility up the board.
And if we're just taking Demonkin out of the context for this and just assuming the other 5 detachments, I would probably put him towards the bottom of B tier.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
He's solid, but the AP 1 holds him back a little bit from an Armor of Contempt. And like I was saying, he's fighting the Slaughterbound for that role of the cheap lord that goes and does stuff. And I think Slaughterbound just does it better.
I agree 100%. I think in Khorne Demonkin, he's either here or he's here. He's one of the two. He's very good at that enhancement.
Yes.
But otherwise, I don't even think he beats out Invo. I actually don't think that's particularly close either. Because he's just...
Invo has the same ability, but better.
Yeah.
For the go through stuff. Oh boy, this is a good one. I love this one. So we got the Betrayer himself, Kharn. I'm really excited to see him push kind of back to the forefront of World Eater lists. And the index, it was kind of like an argument between him and Glavemo. Well, sorry, Glavemo isn't what he used to be. Kharn is here and Kharn is king. Kharn also got a 15-point drop for some reason.
I'm there for it, okay? Like, he was okay before. 100 was like a little high, honestly.
It was. And he got a Pippa strength, which is really nice because if you're playing Berserker Warband, he goes up to strength 9, which is officially in the danger zone for dreadnoughts and small transports.
Yep, and strength
Reroll
is the danger zone for a lot of heavy infantry as well. There's a lot of 3-wound infantry at toughness 6. Before he's winning them on 4s, and now he's winning them on 3s. That's a huge difference between as many attacks as he does.
Yep. And now he is the only source of rerolls, really, in the book. Sans like a couple really weird selfish choices. Broadly, he's pretty much the only source of rerolls for World Eaters to have access to. I know Mo gets rerolls, and I think weird twin-linked combos and demons and maybe vessels. Like, other than that, it's some offshoot thing. But he's going to be the most common source of rerolls now for a World Eater player. And when you combine him attached to Berzerkers with 8-bound standing next to them, you're hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s to hit with some sort of buffs and maybe some other things going on, right? He's insane. And having 9 AP2, damage 3 attacks on the charge, or 8 if you're not playing Berserker Warband, he hits like a truck.
Yeah, he does.
And being able to pull off the disgusting combo of throw him out there, he's going to kill something. He's going to die. He's going to fight on death while he dies. Then he's going to stand back up, kill whatever killed him, and then he's going to die fighting something and fight on death again. Getting 4 activations out of him is the dream, and it's not incredibly unlikely to pull off.
No,
all for the low
cost
of 85 points.
It's 1 in 4 you get to fight 4 times. It's a 50-50 you get to fight 3 times. It's not bad. That's not bad. And also the unit's very tough to deal with outside of combat because it has Blood Surge, D6+2, or flat 8. So if your opponent shoots you and then is like, I'm going to finish you off in combat, congratulations, you've earned yourself a Kharning. Like,
which is a horrible thing to experience.
It's not fun. I played a game into Quentin where his unit finished off Mortarion, and then he died to the charge because he was behind a wall. His unit died. Mortarion fought on death. Mortarion's much better than Angron. So his whole unit died, but he was still alive. And then I died to the charge. And I'm like, all right, cool. Stood back up. And between 2 Forgefiends and Kharn, I wiped an entire 10-man Terminator brick in a character. And the Forgefiends only killed 4, to be clear, because he -1 damaged. So like,
yeah, 85 points. Like, he's in that realm of like the old index typhus of being like, why are you this cheap? Like, why? And then he's just going to probably continue to be that price tag for the entire edition. And I feel like he's going to be a backbone of a lot of lists. Like, he is the kill piece now.
Yeah, he looks like a freight train, especially if you put him in a unit. And also, you can just run him solo. There's like nothing. It's not necessarily bad. I probably want a unit with him to really make use of the blood, so just really make my opponent's turn miserable. But like, you can run him as an 85-point missile that stands back up and missiles again.
Yeah, there's like a weird argument during the index time to run him as a solo piece, and he arguably does that better now.
Yeah, he's a go-to in like 3 detachments, I'd say. Because like, him and Berserker Warband is peanut butter and jelly. There's like, you start with him in the list, I think anyway. I don't know. They go together perfectly. And then him in the Gore Track detachment, same deal, right? You want units disembarking. Well, guess what? This is how you make Khorne Berzerkers hit hard outside of Berserker Warband. And then in Khorne Demonkin, if he gets devastating wounds, Lance twin linked.
Don't forget Vessels too. I mean, Vessels, those Berserkers have 3 keywords and him. You have Lethals, Dev, and Sustained on that squad that's rerolling it.
That
like,
is rough. That's rough, brother. Because the dev wounds against infantry at 3 damage, nobody's safe.
You're just like, oops, I spiked my wound roll a little bit. Would you please pick those 5 Terminators off the table? No safe throw.
Yeah, I have a unit behind me, but I don't need them. You're dead.
Yeah, the amount of times that I have gone into a Terminator squad or like a Custody squad, activated just Kharn and been like, oh, the other 10 guys are just here to cheer him on, and like, don't even get to roll the rest of my dice. Like, how unfun is that? I don't even get to roll the rest of my dice. And that's just what Kharn does for you. And I think he is a solid first S tier pick for me.
100%.
I think he is absolutely going to be a staple in multiple lists.
Yeah, he's great. By the way, in that scenario where I killed Mortarion, I didn't have to roll the rest of the squad. Mortarion was low, but Kharn got the job done. And I'll talk about this more when we get to Forgefiends. But like, man, the massive 3 damage that we have and the massive dev wounds we have against infantry, I was personally finding it like my hardest matchups were into big, tough infantry. And I don't think that's the case anymore. I think we annihilate big, tough infantry because we have 3 damage everywhere. We have dev wounds everywhere, high AP. And Kharn's a big part of that.
a lot of our bad, I will say, like, just in brief tangent, yeah, a lot of our bad matchups definitely kind of flipped quite a bit, and especially like our horde matchups too, and like you said, those elite infantry matchups. Those I don't look so grim anymore, and this dude is going to carry a lot of that burden on his shoulders. We're speaking about Glaive Mo.
Yes. Well, he may have lost the fight unit to unit, but he did drop 50 points. Damn near half of his cost.
Now you get 2.
Ooh, they will do less damage than Kharn, but just the 2 of them. I don't know. I mean, 60 points is the point where I'm like, man, Berserker Warband does Khorne Berzerkers really well. And if I want Khorne Berzerkers to hit hard after my opponent like lets me Blood Surge into them, right? So they shoot like 4 of the Khorne Berzerkers away and you Blood Surge. They're not that scary. You need something to juice them a little bit. And the Mo, to be clear, only juices them a little bit.
But he is 60 points.
He is 60 points.
Which is the cheapest character we have in the book, which means he's also the cheapest enhancement holder in the book. Which means that all of those +1 damage and extra weird shenanigans things that we have going on all have a really good home on him because he's just really efficient. Right, with the full rerolls to hit and wound, with +1 damage, he still hits just as hard as he used to, just without the fights first. And you could value that probably around like the 60 points or 50 points that he dropped. But yeah, as you said, Jack, like the Blood Surges have to be respected way more now, and being able to make him rock in there off of a Blood Surge and just mess up whatever he's touching is insane. Also, the little buff that like snuck its way in there is World Eaters used to have 0 command point economy. Like we just did not do that at all, right? It was kind of just like I'm +1 to wound, advancing or auto advancing 6 every single turn, and I have no CP for anything else. This guy now gives you an extra CP if you kill a character, which is not nothing, because when you combine that with the Daemon Prince, which is discounting strats, you actually have a very good economy going, and you actually have the CP to be spending on interrupts and redrawing cards, which is why I'm looking at this guy too. Is like, if I'm playing him, that means my scoring is just going to get better throughout the course of the game, because as I'm drawing these bad secondaries, he's giving me the ability to fish them away.
And that rule is written in a pretty decent way, where it's if him or his unit kills a character,
right,
he doesn't personally got to get the head, which is nice because that means you'll whiff half the time. But like you're playing an EC, you're getting character kills if you want them. Like you're playing into a variety of armies, you're getting character kills.
I'd say he's all right. He's not what he used to be.
No,
but he is the cheapest character we have, and therefore the cheapest enhancement holder we have. And he will have a home. And like in Gortrak, he's a staple, right? You're playing multiples of him in Gortrak. Berserker Warband, he has a home. If you're planning on running the set of 20 or 30 Berserkers, like you could make an argument to have him in there. Outside of that, I'm probably not looking at him.
No, I would tend to agree on that. Yeah. I do also want to echo what you said about giving him like glaive or something like that. No, he does not do nearly as much damage as like the Slaughterbound or the Daemon Prince, especially if you give them like glaive or something like that. But what he does is suddenly it goes from, okay, so I will take some damage if I let you Blood Surge into me, to, okay, I might die if you Blood Surge into me. And so as opposed to like being a gigantic hammer you can just hit your opponent with, it's like a little knife that like just slips in there, which is sometimes what you want, especially if you don't want to spend for a big expensive like Daemon Prince that's like 225 or something.
I could see him being one of those nice game pieces as we start to get, like, if we get points drops or points go up or down, he's going to slot into lists really nicely just as an extra little inclusion.
I wish he did a little bit more for his unit. Like,
I do too.
The reroll Blood Surge real advance is like, okay, that's neat, but can we get a real rule on him? Like just a little bit?
I would say that he's probably solidly at the back of B tier for me, that he's a good consideration, but not an auto for me.
I think that's super reasonable. I want him to be probably a little better than he is, maybe like 70 points, and he gives you, I don't know, something for his unit, +1 AP. That would be probably, I don't know, something.
That's probably a little insane. Speaking of insane, Footprints.
Love this dude. He's a little expensive. He's 200 points base, that's actually quite a lot of points. But he, you remember that CP economy we were talking about? Yeah.
You get that train roll, and it can get out of hand.
Free strats. He also is the only source of long op in this book. And that is, for a melee army, huge. We're not fast enough to do the sprint into our opponent's deployment zone from our staging points and hit them on their home objective on turn 2. You probably shouldn't have been doing that anyway, unless your opponent was like super, left themselves open to it. But you definitely can't now. But that's not really how melee armies, at least that's not how I usually play it. What I usually like to do is set up a board state where I'm going to win if they don't do anything about it. And then they come forward and then I hit them.
Which is what you wanted anyways.
Exactly.
So,
and Alona helps so much with that.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, he's just, the amount of times I've been playtesting it and I've just had him standing out in the middle of the open and your opponent starts lining up shots and you're like, nah, I got Jackal friends over there just telling me you can't do it. Right? Blown-up is huge. I feel like World Eater players aren't used to actually how strong that's going to be. After messing with Lucius for a while, I can really appreciate how much Blown-up is going to impact us. Ideally, you want this guy living for 5 turns of the game to really get the most out of your CP economy anyways. So that extra durability you get from him just not being able to be shot is huge. And we're not even talking about like the rest of what he has going for him.
There's a lot.
He's still T10, which means Meltas just sometimes don't work into him. He is weirdly durable and will eat a lot of attention from your opponent. So if they're driving up within 12 inches to shoot him, it better be a very good gun, because a lot of the times he's just going to brush it off.
He's also in addition, like 3, so like just randomly contesting his objective with a Rhino, that doesn't play.
Right, and his melee did get a bit of a glow up. I believe he got like an extra few attacks in both his strike and his sweep. And he gets Dev Wounds on the charge. That hasn't changed. And as I was talking earlier, like there's tons of really fancy, cool World Eater enhancements that you can just tack on any of these characters. And if you want him to be a murder machine, any of the +1 damage enhancements are sick on him. You basically push him up to, in Berserker Warband on the charge, if you give him Glaive, he has 18 attacks at Strength 8, AP 2 damage dev, if you spend the CP for the AP.
Which is cracked.
And that's before you start tacking on probably a few more buffs, like you give him Sustain and Lethal too, right? I mean, that's just Angron's old sweep, but on just all through the roof, right? So I don't know if I'd put Glaive on him, but you could. Helm, making him -1 damage. Really good. Favored, really good. Like, he's just a really good holder of all of the enhancements.
Yeah, he's 6 attacks at strength 10, AP 2 damage 3. With Dev Wounds, that's fine. Right? That's okay. It's respectable damage. It would go to 7 attacks at 11, 2, 3, and you're like, okay with that.
I think he has 8 attacks.
But now he has 8 attacks at strength 8. Which, like, his strength went down, but his attacks went up. Yeah, that's much better, because his intended targets are a lot of the time like those heavy infantry. Or the vehicles where more attacks with Dev Wounds is probably better. And then in Berserker Warband, he's right back to 9 attacks at strength 10 with Dev and Sustained and AP plus AP and whatever you want.
And him sweeping just smacks elves off the table, which is what I'm here for.
Oh, 100%.
So I have a very high opinion of him right now. I do think, like you said, he is a little pricey. He is a very, very good model. He is a little pricey at the moment, but I'm still really trying to find a reason not to play him in almost every list I'm building. I want to put him probably like top A, bottom S, somewhere in that range. With points, he probably slides into S.
Yeah, if he drops like at all, he slides right into S tier, no questions. I agree. He's a bit of a tweener on that one. He's either an S or he's in top of A. He's very good. And after including my lists, I don't think I'm going to take him out. Is there does he bounce in and out of your lists, or does he stay in there?
No, when I am building a list, it starts with Kharn plus 10 and him every single time.
I'm gonna put him in. If neither of us are considering taking him out of lists at the moment, that sounds to me like S tier.
Yeah, and I guess the argument you can make is he has a home in all 6 detachments.
Yes. See, we have good strats. We have great strats even. And being able to just do an extra 5 is huge.
All of them are very expensive. 1 CP -1 damage is crazy.
It's really good. On him, it's 1 CP -2 if he's in that detachment.
And if you got Helm, yeah, you could be sitting there just like, yeah, your 3 damage is 1 damage. I hope you liked being here.
I was staring at Quentin's Daemon Prince because we had an open center, and we'll come back to this, but both of us had good guns. And I just plunked my Daemon Prince on the center objective. I'm like, you can charge me if you feel like it, but I promise you're going to do like 2 damage.
Yeah. So speaking of Demon Princes, his cousin, which I'm not as excited about.
No,
but
he's okay.
Still all right.
He moves 14. He's toughness 9, which on balance is probably about the same. He forces a battle shock check on you at the start of the fight phase. And
he grenades you when he flies over you.
Yeah, which the flyover, I mean, do not compare this guy to the EC one. You will be sad. Because the flyover mortals are a little tough to set up. Whereas the impact mortals off the Emperor's Children one are vicious.
He was 155 points at one point in time in the index.
Yeah.
And it was straight up like him or Exalted Eightbound was the choice you're making. And Exalted Eightbound won that argument every single time. Now he's back up a bit. Still cheap, but not cheap.
No, he's around 80, which is a bit high for... He hits less hard than the Footprints because he doesn't have dead wounds. And he is a lot less utility, and he's not alone. I mean, okay, I'm sorry. He's not the Footprints. We both know this. So where is he, is the question.
He works if you give him a lot of support and you're giving him an enhancement and you're spending CP on him to give him an AP. And that's just not it because there's other characters that just do that better without that kind of support. So I think in my gut feeling that he's probably somewhere in C tier. The argument would be ahead of or behind Dad. I would probably actually play Angron before I played him.
Fair enough.
At the moment. At his point cost, I am playing Exalted Eightbound instead.
Yeah, because they're also very close. I mean, in the past, for whatever that's worth, he was basically like Unit 4 of Exalted if you had the points, and you probably didn't. And now he's like, I don't know, he's competing with so many units, and he just doesn't win the fight against any of them. That's sad. All right, Winged Prince, you just aren't the Footprints. That's okay. Hopefully you all assembled your princes with without wings. If you didn't, it just,
rip them off.
It's easy. Anyone can do it.
Now the heart and soul of a World Eater army coming up here. This one's a bit of a topical conversation piece at the moment. Like, they got 2 inches faster, which is huge.
That's massive. Yeah.
Our threat range out of a Rhino is still the same in the detachments where you're playing them. They're still going 17 inches and charging, up to 17 inches and charging in Berserker Warband. And Gortrak, they can go a little bit faster than that too. They lost a bit of strength, which sucks. They are just strength 4 now, which is what it is. But in the detachments where you're going to be looking to take advantage of Khorne Berzerkers, they don't really feel that. Berserker Warband obviously pushing them to strength 6 and giving them Lance out of Gortred. And yes, you'll still be stuck in combat sometimes, and then you'll hate it there. But largely coming out of the car on the charge, they hit as hard as they used to, if not harder.
Yeah, and they got a lot of utility baked into their data sheet. So it's there's a lot of people who see number smaller than number was before and go, how come they're worse? The craziest version of that, by the way, I saw online was somebody despairing that Kharn had a lower strength characteristic than Typhus, ignoring everything else about his data sheet.
You just can't look at the data sheet and only judge it based off of that. You just have to assume there's 2 to 3 other keywords stapled to it, and maybe they're +1 to hit, and maybe they have an extra source of AP.
Yeah. So, yes, strength 4, they do not hit as hard on their face as I would like them to hit. They gained a ton of utility. The D6 +2 Blood Surge is massive, especially if you make it flat 8. Like, at that point, people got to respect the hell out of whatever objective you just bathed in blood, right? You run up to an objective, you murder everything on it, your opponent has to stay 9.1 inches away from you at all times, or you're just in combat suddenly. Because they're not really going to kill 10 of these in one activation. It's very rare in shooting that that's going to happen. And if they do eventually kill the unit dead, you will sticky the objective under you. That's Berserker Warband. There's a variety of reasons to take them in a variety of detachments.
They're a great trap piece now, and they're a delivery device for Kharn, which we have an S tier. Right? You're not. Yes, you can take Kharn solo, but Kharn with 10 Berserkers, you put some 8-bound next to him, +1 to hit, +1 AP from a strat from a couple of the detachments can push them up to AP2. You are chewing straight through a Custodian Warden brick through the Fort Field of Pain.
Yeah.
And
especially, I think the thing people aren't taking into account, at least online, there's a lot of things that people online aren't taking into account. But one of them is the fact I think this unit hit harder than it did before, even just on its face, because you have access to dev wounds against infantry.
Oh, yeah. Before saying Kharn +10 kills Wardens, Custodian players would laugh at you. Now they fear you.
Yes.
And the math did push it above that threshold to do it, which was a big problem for us. Like, Custodians was a somewhat problematic matchup for us.
Could be.
Because it took one Blade Champ living to just ruin your day.
There's always a little sketchy. You always were just like, man, I hope we both roll average in this interaction. Otherwise, it's going to suck.
And now you need your custodian opponent to roll above average to come out on top, which I like. So Berserkers, I'm not spamming them right now, but I'm playing them more than I did in the Index. In the Index, I was on 10, maybe 15. Now I'm looking at 10, 20, 30. Any of those feels correct.
I don't buy the 20-mans. Like, I get it, right? It's the Black Templar Primaris Crusader spam, but it has 6-inch pile and consolidate. It has dev wounds. It can move faster and advance and charge. And I think that's okay. I think I'll even upgrade that to a good teams build, because you find someone who can't deal with it and you 20-0 them.
Yep.
But
and
in singles or even in teams, if you find your way into a bad matchup with that, you just get wiped. There's nothing you can do.
If there's a Forgefiend on the other end of the table,
even just one.
Just one. You now are going to spend the entire game hiding for your life to position these guys not to get instantly killed.
With units the size of dinner plates, like it's going to be rough.
The 20-man will be cute and it will work for some people. I'm just looking at 1 to 2 to 3 10-mans of these guys just being missiles to shoot out of rhinos.
Yep.
In either Gortrak or Berserker Warband.
I like that.
And then they have a home in Vessels. I think a 20-man actually is kind of cute in Vessels to be -1 to wound. But I would put them probably somewhere in bottom of A tier.
Yeah.
Even they could be better, but I'm happy. I can still work with what they are.
I wish that they were base strength 5 AP2, because then they would hit hard off the charge in Berserker Warband. Now, would their points and other rules need to be adjusted at that point? Who's to say, you know? But
we can want.
Yeah, we can want. I even think in Demonkin, they're interesting because you are just a billion attacks with, sustained reroll 1s to hit, +1 to hit, and then access to Lance, full rerolls to wound with dev wounds against infantry. You will do like crimes to people if you hit them with that combo with Kharn.
You just gotta really peel apart the codex and look for the small combos to enable these guys, because it really isn't that much work to just have 8-bound standing next to them and like Flesh Hounds and paying a CP to get twin linked, or just in general, like, these guys hit hard. They really do hit hard.
You just have to put in the work ahead of time, I think.
Speaking of one of the combo pieces for that, we have, I think, one of my probably favorite units in the codex.
Yeah, they're very interesting. 8-bound. Why don't you go into detail about them?
Yeah, so at first when people saw that we lost our last Raiders, we lost our damage 3 source, they despaired a bit, right?
Yeah, I'm guilty of that.
We lost our,
by the way.
We lost our weapon options on our 8-bound and Exalted 8-bound. Spoiler alert. And then we were like, oh, well, at least we still have their wound rerolls. Well, no, we don't. It got replaced with the +1 to hit into their preferred target. 6-inch aura of if you're in it, you're +1 to hit into non-monsters and vehicles, which is actually really good.
It's pretty solid, yeah.
For people concerned about losing reroll 1s, think of it as just like +1 is better than reroll 1. And the earlier in the chain that you're modifying dice for rolling, the better it is for the overall outcome.
Is you're modifying more dice, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. You're modifying more dice. So the best modifiers are to the hit rolls in general. And then save rolls tends to be the least impactful. But being able to make Berserkers or themselves hit on 2s with Berserker Warband to 18 attacks at strength 10, AP2, 2 damage, sustained hits, dev wounds. There is nothing at their point value that has legs that lives that.
They do heinous things. They hit way harder than they used to.
And you're like, oh, they're anti-infantry now. I can't kill vehicles because you're worried about spending +1 to win. Well, actually, on the charge, these 3 guys with sustained hits still kill a war dog easily on average.
Yeah, like did you hear the profile he just said? Like it's 18 attacks at 10-2-2 with keywords on them.
And if you really feel like it, an extra AP. Some of the other detachments can also amp them in their own ways. I mean, we're talking demons. Demons can give them twin linked, which is nuts. You combine that with if you really wanted to spice it up and throw a Slaughterbound in there, now you're going to 28 attacks potentially at 10-2-2, and it's still a pretty reasonable points cost. That's like 230, 240 points to just instantly delete 10 Marines or any small, medium to small vehicle.
Or like legitimately, I think in that detachment, in the demons detachment, if you pop the strat, I think you legitimately delete like 20 Marines. It's rough. Not quite that many, but like up there.
But the vibes are that. And then, they still kept their scout, so they're still fast. So you still are making your opponent respect the alpha. Even though the alpha doesn't really exist in the capacity it used to, you can still get across the board in one turn and hurt your opponent if they do not respect you. And running these guys in 6-mans, dropping 36 10-2-2 attacks with sustained dev hitting on 2s.
That's a vibe.
There is no infantry unit in this game that's living that.
No. And the nice part of Scout is it means you just start with control over midboard, right? You just start the game. I have control over the middle of the board. You don't. How about you walk into my threat ranges to go do something about that? That's
absolutely,
especially if you combine with spawn, so that if they send forward something cheap, you would kill it with spawn. If they send forward something expensive, you would kill with 8-bound. Either way, they're dead.
And that's like why I also appreciate the scout on them too. Is you're in a lot of the games that you're going to be playing, you're going to be sending these guys out early, not necessarily fighting early, but you're going to be sending them out early to occupy that board space, to threaten those ranges, to make space for your berserkers to be able to come up in their rhinos. And what that's doing is that's also enabling your goremongers and your spawn, which we'll get to. Those are their own basket of joy over there. But you're enabling those data sheets to be +1 to hit in the middle of the board and actually functionally skirmish.
Now, I do think that the data sheet is a little overcosted. I
agree.
50 points a model is a little steep. My preferred points cost would be like 135 personally.
Yeah, I would like to see them pushing that like 40 to 45 points per model. They are not durable.
At all. Not
at all. And Exalted Eightbound are the same. It's the same thing, just a little bit more expensive. They are not durable. They're not what they used to be. They're T6 in a dream. So yeah, I do agree that they are a little overcosted, but that can be solved with time.
That can be solved with time.
The rules on their data sheet are fantastic.
Yes. What we're going to see here is that this, I think, is a symptom of we don't have a lot of data sheets. Like in Space Marines, for example, if you're overcosted, you'll just take something that is normally costed or a lot of the time undercosted instead. But we don't really have a replacement. I mean, the replacement for this unit would be Exalted, who are, in my opinion, worse. I don't know where you come down on that.
I'd say we've done a good job now coming from the index to the codex of giving jobs to the data sheets in our codex. So now Exalted Eightbound just do something completely different at this point. So you can't even even comparing them. But yes, I would say that Eightbound for me are one of the best data sheets we have.
Yes.
Which feels we're ripping through all of our S tiers real quick because I would actually put them all the way up there.
All right. Fair enough. I mean, they make every list I write. So like I can't argue against that. And I'm not even going to try.
I would put them probably somewhere above the Prince still.
Something like that.
We could argue on that, but yeah, I think they're solid. That does not mean they're not flawed. Their points are flawed, I would say, but with time, that is a very easy fix.
Yep. And I think the part that keeps them in my list like 100% of the time is the power pair between them and the Prince, because the Prince really, really likes having a unit in the middle of the board early that is tiny, like really small, it's 3 models, and just wedges itself into a corner and goes, loan up for the Prince on the objective. If you charge the Prince, I'll heroic, and ain't nothing living through that. And that just means you get to make this little castle out of almost nothing, right? A tiny little nook or cranny, and you stick the 3 dudes in there, and then you stick the Prince on the objective, and you tell your opponent to kick rocks.
And yeah, there's multiple. We said they weren't durable, but they can still be sneakily durable with access to next to the Prince, -1 damage for 1 CP. Or if you're playing Vessels, the -1 to wound. Or if you're playing Slaughterbound, you also have -1 to wound in there. So you can still surprise your opponent with making this not very durable unit surprise durable. And if you have a Slaughterbound attached to them, that's just stonks, right? Like now you get 1 revive off, and that Slaughterbound's effectively a 55 point, or like you get 1 revive off, the Slaughterbound's done his job. Yeah, so I'm pretty confident in where we put him.
Yeah,
moving on to their cousin.
I have not played the Exalted since the Codex dropped, so I'm just gonna sit back and listen to what you have to say. The Exalted was my favorite unit, like tied with Angron in the Index. They definitely changed it quite a lot.
Yeah, they are no longer a comically strength 15, comically large strength. It's just always every event I go to where somebody has just a little unfamiliar with what's going on my side of the table, and I charge them with Exalted. They're like, "What do you mean you're wounding on 2s? What strength are you?" And I was like, "Enough."
15. No. You wound my wardens on 3s because I'm -1 to wound if your strength is greater. I'm like, I know. Yeah, I'm +1 to wound.
I was like, you're like, if I could wound you on 1s because I'm 3 times stronger than your toughness. In a lot of situations they were. So the Exalted, like I was saying earlier, used to be in the Index the catch-all. Like they were anti-infantry, anti-tank, they were durable, they were fast, and they had probably one of the best scam abilities in the game of just tied to them, which is the no fallback aura.
The game. Whoops.
Which
sorry.
People are, I mean, yes, I'm sad to see that go. But it got replaced with now when a vehicle or monster falls back from them, they have to take a desperate escape. Which I was like, damn, that's basically like having no rule. But you actually get in a lot of weird scenarios where like you're playing against Tower or something, right? And you blow straight through a screen, pile and consolidate 6, and now you're touching 2 Devilfish, and you just stare at your opponent and you're just like, yeah, here's just another scam. Like, are you gonna roll the 1 or 2? You could just lose a transport just out the gate. Same thing, like you're touching Russ with a blast gun on the top. Like, what are you gonna do? Fall back or stay in combat with the anti-monster vehicle 3-up chain fist dudes? Like, they still hit really hard. More importantly, I would argue that they're still the premier rapid ingress threat at the moment. And part of what a melee army like World Eaters is trying to do is create those uncomfortable situations like Jack was alluding to earlier, where like you want to set yourself up in a game-winning position where your opponent has to come out and answer it, right? Well, your opponent's going to have to walk into the middle of the board to answer where you are in the middle of the board. Well, while they're walking forward, you want them to also be looking backwards behind them, where 3 Exalted Eightbound could just appear in a hole in their back line, right? And just wreak havoc, right? That's where these guys want to be. I think 1 3-man rapid ingressing is my favorite home for them. I still think that's fairly auto choice for me. They do make their way into most of my lists for that. I will still cut them at great anguish, but I still see that role being solid, right? And taking them and attaching a Slaughterbound, which inherits the deep strike, is huge. Because like you're like, hey, 3 Exalted Eightbound may not kill a Vindicator. 3 Exalted Eightbound plus a Slaughterbound will kill a Vindicator, right? Yeah. So you can make that choice to throw the Slaughterbound either with them or with the Eightbound, depending on kind of like the vibes you're getting from your opponent when you're walking up to a table. Yep. So,
and you can still get them in the +1 to hit aura. So like against infantry, and especially against like there's a AP3 is a big deal in the infantry on infantry fight because 2-up armor saves with Armor of Contempt are everywhere. And if you're AP2, yeah, Berserker Warband can amp AP2 to AP3, and that is pretty huge. But you can't always do that. You know, you have to be on the charge. You have to have not used it somewhere else. You have to be in Berserker Warband, right? Like there's a whole variety of reasons why you might not have it. And just having AP3 or AP4 if you need it from these guys, especially if you're going into those 2-up armor save targets with Armor of Contempt, you just tell your opponent, listen, I'm still going to hit on 2s because 8-bound are in the AO, right? They're in the zip code. And now I'm hitting you on 2s with 15 attacks at strength 10, AP3, damage 2. Armor Contempt is pointless. Don't bother. I'm going to kill you. We're just going to move on with our day.
And then I do see World Eaters potentially having it's not going to be a problem, but it's going to be a little bit of a shock that we used to just tear through armor like it was nothing in the Index. And now we're probably just good to okay at going through armor. And reducing the amount of exalted pushes that meter more towards the okay side, which I would like it to still be firmly in the I want to handle 13 war dogs whenever they walk across the table at me. So keeping a couple squads of them around and on your radar when list building is probably a good idea.
Okay, I can get behind that.
I don't think they're auto. For me personally, I just enjoy the problems rapid ingress causes. So I will still be playing them. I would probably put them somewhere in A tier. I would put them beneath the Slaughterbound, maybe above Berserkers or below. I would leave that up to you, Jack.
I'll go ahead and put them below Berserkers. My main issue with them is 160 points is a lot of points.
Yeah.
It's a lot of points for a unit that dies like that once it's connected. So it does get to kill something first, which is nice, usually. But that's a lot of points. I would love to see both them and regular 8-bound come down because they are just the glassiest cannons you've ever seen.
And there's a lot of cannons out there that are way cheaper and hit just as hard.
Yeah.
So speaking of glass cannons, we have the World Eaters Terminator coming up next.
Yeah, so they are hilarious as a data sheet. They have storm bolters that shoot 6 shots. We're gonna, yeah, it's a common thing in this book. All of our shooting hits on 4s, basically, unless it's a character, right? And even the Daemon Prince hits on 3s in his shooting. So our shooting is pretty inaccurate, but it makes up for that with crazy rapid fire numbers. Like, yeah, Stormbolter, rapid fire 2. Okay, maybe in World Eaters they'll amp it to rapid fire 3. No. Rapid fire 4. So inside half range, you are firing 6 shots apiece, and you're firing 6 shots on the autocannon as well. And don't worry, these guys also have melee weapons, so they're going to hit hard in combat too. So you just like bring this unit in, and you fire 30 shots that full rerolls to hit against the closest target. That's going to wipe a screen basically all the time. Like cultists or something, you're not living through that. And then you get rerolls to charge as well. And you get, in Berserker Warband, you get the +2 strength, +1 attack. We'll be harping on that a lot. It makes a lot of breakpoints a lot better. There's a reason why we both think that Berserker Warband is one of, if not the best detachment in the book. We'll cover that in the detachments breakdown coming later. Yeah, I mean, they don't hit soft, and they clear screens. They will not kill anything tougher than a screen, ever, in shooting. But sometimes you need screens dead, and they're pretty good at doing that. Now, they are expensive.
They do have enough volume, and I believe the Reaper cannons still have dev wounds tied to them.
Yep. Yeah.
So sometimes you can scam and get, like, if you dump all that shooting into a custody brick, sometimes you can scam and, like, just take a body just from
That's true.
weight of dice. They are 2 inches faster, and as I was alluding to with the glass cannon thing, there used to be an argument in the index about which was better, Terminators or Exalted Eightbound. And the answer was, like, you really couldn't make a decision on the durability, because when you tied in the 5-up Feel No Pain and the 4-up Invul the Daemon Prince was giving you and some of the other buffs, there really was no argument to be looking at a 2-up, 4-up, right? Because you could just have Exalted Eightbound, which are just straight up better, and have a 5-up Feel No Pain.
Yeah, and much faster too. Move 5 versus 9. Now there's 7 versus 10. And that's...
Now, 7 versus 10 and 2-up, 4-up versus 3-up, 5-up. There's an argument there. I will say the rule is a bit counterproductive of, like, shooting the closest thing to you, and that closest thing was probably still going to be the closest thing after you're done shooting at it, and now it's further away from you, so your charge roll just got harder, which is why you get to reroll the charge, because it's not the closest thing to you. I'll say the rule fights itself a little bit there. It can be a little awkward at times, because you want to be shooting with these guys, but then you also want to be charging the thing you shot.
Yeah, I mean, I think the role that they have is to rapid ingress, walk up, clear screen of cultists, and charge through into the thing behind it, with a reroll to charge against that thing if you kill the cultists.
Yep, and you just kind of want to... They want to rapid ingress and exist on that side of the board and just say, this side of the board is mine for the rest of the game forever, which is kind of like what Terminators do across every army that you play Terminators. I will say that I'm still not overly impressed by them. They're solid. I'd say they're probably slightly better than they used to be. But where they used to be wasn't necessarily impressive. And for what World Eaters want to be doing, how fast we want to be getting places, and other things that we're going to talk about in this tier list, we're not really wanting for solid shooting options anyways.
I mean, that's one way to put it for sure.
I don't think it's bad to bring them. I think they actually have a home. I just think there's, like, recurring thing. There's probably better things at this point cost because they are quite expensive.
They are pretty expensive. I think if they come down at all, they're like pretty interesting. Because I could see them filling the same role as the Exalted, right? A rapid ingress deep strike threat. The Exalted are smaller, so they can fit in like tinier little gaps. But these guys can shoot a screen away, which sometimes can be the difference of connecting into something big versus not, or forcing your opponent to screen way deeper than they otherwise would, which gives like Forgefiends access to them. But they are very expensive, right? 185 is not cheap. You've seen other Terminators at that points cost. They don't usually tend to be that good unless they have something pretty good going for them. And I think these Terminators are like fine, or they're good even, but probably not at 185 for 5. They come down to like 170, 175.
I would put them bottom of B, top of C at the moment.
Yeah, that's probably accurate.
Jakhals.
Yeah, so I mean, Jakhals are a premier backfield screen. They're 10 models. They stick you to the home objective, so your opponent can't shoot them away and then deny your home objective. And they screen the largest area. We are a bit elite on even just model count, right? 3-man 8-bounds, 2-man spawns. The Berzerkers are going to go in Rhinos. So like screening can kind of be a little bit of an issue just based off those sheer model counts, right? But Jakhals, 10 models, 65 points, screen the objective, sticky stuff. I think one needs an auto include.
I'd say they definitely got a glow down from what they were in the index, but what we were using them for in the index is exactly what you're saying. They're the cheapest points cost for 10 models we can have to screen out the backfield.
Yep.
Anything past that is gravy. 10 to 20, I'd agree, is auto include. If I could fit the 20th in my list right now, I would. Or the squad of 11 to 20, I would. Points are a little awkward right now. Like I said, hoping for a little bit of a point cut. But you're still going to be wanting to run minimum 1. Like you have to have 1 in every list.
Yes.
2 feels probably where you should be at still.
I played a game with 1 and I had to like screen out my back corner with like Bloodletters and Hounds. That felt really bad. And then I played a version of the list that had 20 of them, and it was a little more than I needed, right? I realistically need 15 models to screen out my backfield, right? A unit of 5 and a unit of 10. 20 was a bit much, but it felt really like secure, right? My backfield was never going away. My opponent has to deal with the front, right? They have to deal with in front of me, not behind me. And it can help out a lot against 6-inch deep strikes as well. They're just also not going to get behind you on 6-inchers.
And I think we're still spamming, or not spamming them, but I still think we're playing them in every list. I'd say I'd put them in A tier just because I'm not excited to play multiples of them.
Yeah, they are
we can S at all.
They're not crazy. They are just the best at doing nothing because they're the cheapest.
Just be satisfied that our cultists will beat everyone else's cultists up in a street fight, and that's all you should be happy about.
I mean, we should be happy we have cultists at all, right? There are armies that have just straight up lost it. Emperor's Children, are holding their backfield with 5 Marines? Nah, couldn't be us, bro.
That doesn't screen anything.
That doesn't screen anything. Right. Now, there is the discussion of the Blood Cult detachment, because that is a brand new way to use these models.
Okay. Talking about Blood Cult and these guys real quick, and Berzerker Warband, because we're just on the topic of Berzerker Warband right now, too. The 10, if you want to give a Custody player a midlife crisis, pop dev wounds and charge it with these 10 guys and straight to a Warden squad and be like, I'm dumping 40 attacks on you with dev wounds. Are you popping your 4-up Feel No Pain? And if they kill 1 Custody, they're points positive, right? So,
yes. There also, by the way, is something to talk about in that sort of matchup as well, which is, as I said, the rest of our army is model light in our units, which means that we don't have a lot of options to manipulate the fight phase with basing and doing stuff like that, right? Having a unit tag everybody in the unit so that your little tiny 3-man only engages 1 model. And so if they interrupt, which you need a way around interrupt, we have one, it's the Forgefiend, and the other one is going to be this or -1 damage or something like that to tank through it. You need to be able to base an entire unit and make it so that only like 1 or 2 models can fight your actual unit, and then let them interrupt if they want to. And Jakhals are perfect for that. Goremongers too, I suppose, but Goremongers are bigger bases, which can be a real problem sometimes to like thread them in the cap. And So Jakhals can really help you game a melee matchup. So I'm not sad to have two, because like in a melee matchup, I'm going to use one to do that.
In comfort space, if I had unlimited points to build a World Eater army, there'd be two every single time.
But now Cult of Blood.
Yeah, so in Cult of Blood, you're going to be running a 20-man with potentially full rerolls to hit, which they hit on 4s. If you have 8-bound standing next to them, they're hitting on 3s with sustained. And you can still have Dev Wounds popped very easily. And just like I was saying with Berserker Warband, you're just going to give people really bad decisions to make for like what they think can or cannot tank Jakhals is going to be wrong very frequently.
Well, it's like 60 attacks with full rerolls to hit, possibly +1 to hit with sustain.
So functionally hitting on 2s.
Functionally, yeah. Like more than that. Like you should get more than 100% conversion on attacks. So it's like 60 attacks, like 65 hits. And then Dev Wins.
And
like,
you're dropping 12 Dev Wounds on somebody's head.
Yeah.
You're just like, hi.
You roll little hot and you just pick up an entire Warden brick.
Which seems really, really wrong to say out loud. Like when I'm thinking like headcanon lore, what is happening on the battlefield right now? It's just a bunch of dudes with wrenches and spiked bats coming at you, taking out the Emperor's finest.
Yeah.
So,
and you can give them all 4-up invuln. Like I think if you're running that detachment, I think that detachment has legs. A lot of them actually.
Probably does. That is a style of World Eaters that is special to Josie and a few other psychopaths out there that like putting 300 models on the table. I am not one of them, and I encourage you to go out there and do your best.
Yes, I play Elite Melee or MSU Melee, not Horde Melee. It's just not my bag. I have no idea how good that detachment is. It seems to me like it's pretty solid, but I suppose we'll have to see what Josie does with it.
Yeah, so I'm comfortable putting them in A tier. Probably below Berzerkers for me personally.
Right there.
Yep, because I'm probably playing them more often than you're playing Exalted. Now to their long-legged cousins,
the Goremongers. So I'll be honest, I was like, I think the only World Eaters player who, when Goremongers came out, was kind of like, like they're all right. I get it, right? Infiltrating unit, your opponent now has to like lose their mind, have a panic attack about, I'm going to block off their infiltrators. They can't block my scouts, and my scouts are all going to funnel through that little gap and just table them in their deployment zone. But me personally, I almost never went for it unless my opponent left themselves wide open to that scout and charge play. And so like they're a good unit. They're a little expensive, weirdly enough, for guys who fold the moment anything happens.
Yeah,
they have a reactive move. Now they're strength 5 with Lance on the charge with 4 attacks. Sorry, in Berserker Warband. With 4 attacks, strength 5 Lance. That's the point where you're winning scouts on 2s.
That's actually good math. That math, without the extra AP and without the +1 to hit, kills scouts almost on average.
Yes.
They are a fantastic skirmish piece within the context of Berserker Warband. Being able to give them an extra AP, and like I was saying earlier with the 8-bound, scouting the 8-bound up, getting them in the same zip code as them just for an early skirmish, being able to hit on 3 sustained hits, Lance, and if you felt so inclined, +1 AP, you're lifting 5 JPI off the table. You're lifting scouts for sure. And anything smaller than that, which there's a lot of in the game that are doing that, like stealth suits or rangers or whatever, they're very good at being the first thing that I throw away in every game of go find the cultists and kill them before the game starts, right?
Somebody needs to
move block. Like kill the thing, then move block, and you've done your job.
Yep. Dominant objective.
My excitement didn't come from the index. Like I'm not an alpha strikey player. You aren't either. You and I both, we alpha strike once in a blue moon. We'll enjoy the more passive aggressive hanger like the cartoon around the corner with a baseball bat ready to hit your opponent in the face when they come around the corner. That is how I play World Eaters.
Safer and more secure to go in when I have 4 CP than when I have 1,
Right. So enabling your advance and charge wasn't really what I saw them for. It was for when you get to those top tables or toxic matchups where you have 10 commandos and they win the roll off and now you're jailed for a turn. That is the scenario that I can try to prevent with the Goremongers. They do a great job of that, especially in a world with 120 infiltrating poxwalkers. They are going to keep your opponent just back up a bit, please. Just like get out of my face, turn 1. The World Eater player wants his space. He wants to be able to threaten his scout moves to be able to threaten the middle of the board, and he wants to not get jailed turn 1. So
I really
That
liked
is
when you could get a
very
scout with
silly.
Invo so that you could like infiltrate them, tag one
scout
bead within
back.
6 of Invo, and then scout behind the wall. I played that, and they were okay. They were okay. And I think they're still going to be okay.
I think they're fast, and I think they kill what they want to kill, and I think they are the first thing that should be dying in every single one of your games. If you're using them like as efficiently as you can. Scout block, find your infiltrate block, find the preferred target and kill it turn 1 and move on with life.
Yep.
You don't have to play them. You can play them, and I do think they have a home in a couple detachments. Now, just being strike 3 lance with low attack volume with no AP and a bunch of other detachments, they probably don't get much done.
Yeah, out of Berserker Warband, they go from killing what they need to kill to not killing really anything, and they are not tough.
Yeah, they go from being... Berserker Warband has the benefit of them being a kill piece and a utility piece. They just become a very expensive utility piece in the other detachments.
Yeah,
so I would probably say...
unit that disintegrates the moment anything looks at them.
Correct, the moment. Hey, they got the grenades keyword, though.
Really? They do?
Surprisingly, they do, which is surprisingly rare in the Codex right now. So I would probably put them top of B, bottom of A.
Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and we'll swap them in here. Over Invo, which is a little sad, but yeah, I mean, they do different things.
Oh, boy.
Spawn.
Oh, boy.
Spawn. So Spawn were my favorite unit from the Index because they were just these ridiculously little tanky pieces that could just survive ridiculous things being thrown at them. Like I had Eldar players just shooting with bright lances. Why won't you die?
Well, they aren't ridiculously tanky anymore. Now they're just solidly tanky.
Yeah, but they got better. And I'm shocked. I'm shocked because I'm like, wow, Spawn are like the best skirmish unit in the game, right? Given that they will literally, in the past at least, never lose a skirmish fight. It doesn't matter if they don't win it, they won't lose it. Period.
Correct. And they went from, like you said, they may not win it, but they won't lose it too. They're gonna win it.
Oh,
and so like +2 attacks, I believe, on each model. So they're +4 attacks now.
Minus the strength, but in Berserker Warband that balances out. They used to be strength 6, now they're strength 5.
And now they have Scout 8, which came out of nowhere. Didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, that's a massive rule.
And I was like, oh, we lost advance in charge. How are we ever going to like threaten our opponent turn 1? Well, these guys got advance in charge. So
and
turn 1.
1-inch move over an 8-inch move.
Yeah, so
they're
you can go
lightning fast.
18 plus D6 inches turn 1. And a very common play that I've had turn 1 with my Berserker Warband list is just launching 2 squads of these guys forward with Goremongers running with them and just sniping 3 small units from my opponent's army and then just move blocking them now. Now you're just stuck in your deployment zone because there's just some like spaghetti men screaming at you, and they're going to be obnoxious to kill.
Yeah, they still do the same job they used to a lot of the time, which was on my go turn, I want to tie up some critical resources. They're still going to do that. They just might kill you first. And they do it from yard.
And they do it from a yard away, and now they have the upside of being an MSU. Like they punch up. Yes. They punch really up. In Berserker Warband, if you are stacking your buffs, you get your +1 to hit, you get sustained hits, you get dev wound, you get, I think that's +1 AP from a Daemon Prince standing by. You kill like 9 intercessors on average. You just look at a JPI, like a Blood Angel squad of JPI, and you're just like, that's just gone. And I did it with trash.
Yeah.
And that is nuts.
They are a crazy unit. Like I could see them going up. I don't think they could go up like to triple digits and I'd still be okay with it. But I think I could see them going up like 10, 15 points, and I'd still be like, man, that's a hell of a data sheet.
And I was a big advocate for the 5-man Berserker squad back in the Index, and that was one of the first things that I saw. It was one of the first leaks and or like reveals was that we had 10-man, 20-man Berserkers, and not having a 5-man Berserker made me sad. I was like, oh, there's no way we can skirmish now. We're going to lose every single skirmish fight. And then you like flipped the next page and saw the spawn, and I was like, never mind. We can skirmish really well.
I looked at that data sheet. I'm like, surely they can't let me do shenanigans with Spawn anymore. And I looked at the data sheet and I'm like, oh boy. Oh no, I'm not doing shenanigans anymore. I'm just killing people.
I'm scared to see what the Thousand Sun Spawn looks like because every single Chaos Codex that has come out, Spawn have slowly been escalating in power level. And it's kind of like shameful for me to say that the Death Guard one still puts ours to shame. And the Emperor's Children one is really good too. So Spawn, it's like Spawn stonks right now in the Warhammer community.
Yeah, I remember getting asked every so often, just like, well, should I even like pick up Spawn? Surely GW are going to FAQ them to BOC 0 any day now. I'm like, I don't know why you would believe that. Like, GW does GW things. This codex and the other ones are clearly not written at the same time as CSM. CSM got OC0 spawn losers, with no rules. Whereas ours are gangsters. So
our spawn beat theirs up in a fight. It's like my dad can beat your dad up. So
for sure. I mean, I knew my spawn just like running around in the Death Guard matchup, just absolutely punking units. Like I charged his spawn, my spawn, it wasn't even close. Into oblivion with you. Thank you very much. Killed like 5. If I'd remembered that I had +1 to hit, new codex woes. If I remembered I had +1 to hit, I would have spiked 5 Plague Marines and then tied up 2 vehicles on my go turn. As it was, I only killed 4 of 5 and tied up 1
walking
vehicle. Woe is me.
War crimes. Walking war crimes is what these things are. I think without exaggeration, they're probably the best data sheet in the book.
They might be. They are just absurd on their face.
They're an argument for probably top 5 in the game.
They're up there for sure. Now, I will say you don't actually include them in every detachment. They are not free, right?
They are expensive.
They are a little on the expensive side. They give you the value for points for that. Like you get what you pay for and then some. But they're not free. And they do take up, if you take 2 units, it's 160 points, which is not nothing. In the Demonkin detachment, you do try to find the balance between a certain number of demon units, a certain number of World Eater units. Spawn might make the cut, they might not.
They're just a bucket of Bloodletters. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
The
fall out.
Which we'll get all into that whole nightmare of a detachment. That detachment is so fun and has a lot of really cool combos. But yeah, these guys, and also like the Scout 8, like what's your opponent gonna do? Scout block your spawn? Like, what are you doing with your life? Come on, get in here. Like, Scout block my spawn. I was gonna go kill whatever you Scout blocked me with anyways.
God, they are so absurd. In Berserker Warband, I think the question is, what is a really good reason to not spend 240 points for 6 of these boys?
And I think where I'm at right now is it's a split between 3 spawn or 2 spawn and 1 Goremonger.
That
is where I'm at right now.
Which fair split.
They do reasonably the same thing. Spawn just do it better, and Goremongers do it a little different. So I think they're solid S tier. I don't think anyone would ever argue with me about that. I would probably put them at the top or behind Kharn.
I'll put him behind Kharn because he's a cool dude. But they probably are the best data sheet in this book.
We can't have the champion of Khorne outdone by a meatball. So
by a ball of green stuff you roll through a bits box, yeah. So onto the vehicles. We got the humble Rhino. Went up in cost, which was a little bit iffy, but he gained a data sheet rule.
It's definitely a rule. I'll say that. I mean, like you said, humble. I don't think this dude's humble at all. And personally, before we get into it, I really like the direction that GW's taken with the design point of making all of our vehicles just different in each of the cult books. Like,
yes,
I saw the Emperor's Children rule and I was like, wow, that's sick. I did not expect it to get like weird. I'd say it's better. The World Eaters one rules better situationally.
It's like weird. Yeah, it's a weird one for sure.
So for those of you who don't know yet, basically reactive move-ish disembark, where if your opponent ends within 9 inches of your car, you just get out of your car. And in a few contexts, that may mean nothing to you, and others, it may mean a lot. I was recently watching a game. Person walked 10 Poxwalkers onto an objective thinking they auto-seed a Rhino. Well, actually, no. The Berserkers got out and were very mad that you tried to steal their objective from them.
Yeah, they don't like that. Not a big fan.
Also, have you ever been charged and wrapped and stuck inside of your car by 10 cultists ever? It's like the worst feeling ever. That doesn't happen anymore, which is nice, because now when you see that happening, you just get out of your car.
Well, there's another reason that doesn't happen as much, and we'll talk about it, but all of our vehicles got to glow up in combat.
Yes. All of them hit on 3s now and have significantly more attacks.
Yes.
I think the Rhino's 6 attacks?
Yeah, so it's 6 attacks hitting on 3s at strength 6, but there are ways to buff it. So if you're near, 8-bound, like I had a Forgefiend swinging with 7 attacks on the charge, not the jaws, just like the headbutts. At 7 attacks on the charge, hitting on 2s, sustained, dev, strength 8, AP 0, damage 1.
And if you really felt like it, sprinkle an AP on top.
Totally can.
And it's perfect because that means that, like I was saying, the worst thing that you can ever have as a melee player is to have your guys inside your transport get stuck in there by 10 cultists. Well, now the Rhino can punch its way out of that. Rhinos are also great, or Lane Raiders, or vehicles in general, are really good at being screen breakers now. You can use them with the tank shock paired with their melee and fairly reliably pick up, like, well, don't raise the bar too high, but they will pick up utter trash off the table. It's in your way that you don't want to be wasting 8-bound on, or in the case of like Rhinos, one of my favorite use cases for them is to run over elves, right?
Yes.
Rhino, go over there, tank shock an elf squad, and then the rest of it's probably going to just get them.
You may not even need that, right? Because you have 10 bolter shots off this thing plus a Havoc launcher.
Oh yeah, it did just get super rapid fire as well, as we mentioned earlier from the Daemon Prince. All of the vehicles gained rapid fire in some way, in some capacity. The Rhino is no exception to that. It now has 12 bolter shots plus a Havoc launcher, I think.
It's 12. You are 100% right. It's 12 plus the Havoc. And this might all sound like penny ante, right? Like this doesn't matter, right? Like, you get some extra bolter shots and you get some extra AP 0 attacks in combat. But it matters a lot because the main reason you take this vehicle is to transport your troops. And then once they're out, the fact that this thing can just go and run over 5 striking scorpions is like massive. It like actually is pretty huge that like 5 rangers on the point don't require 2 spawn or 3 8-bound to go kill. Your Rhino's just going to shoot them, charge them. If you roll terrible in the shooting, you're going to tank shock them, and then you fight them to death like every single time. So if you just have like 2 of these things running around, they're going to kill all your opponent's trash while doing their primary function of transporting the guys at the start of the game.
And this is linking back up to why I rate the Daemon Prince so well, is because you don't want to be spending CP on tank shock. So what if it was just free, right? So being able to have that extra resource of just being able to throw mortal wounds at something just because you can in that moment, sweet. And a model like the Rhino, where now it's like this really, really, really weirdly good, annoying utility piece, where it takes quite a substantial amount of effort from your opponent to kill. And that's a lot of heat that you want going at your Rhino and not your Forgefiend. So if they're shooting your Rhino, you're happy. And if they're not shooting your Rhino is going to be running over their trash.
Yep. Or just holding an objective, screening, like doing something that Spawn or Jakhals or Goremongers could have done. But Jakhals and Goremongers don't hold 10 Berserkers and Kharn inside of them.
And you can set up some disgusting plays with the reactive disembark where you have a Rhino parked in a ruin behind like Spawn sitting out an objective. So the Spawn are like holding up a sign that says, "Come get me." And then your opponent walks out to come charge your Spawn off an objective. Well, Kharn and the boys just got out of the car and they're behind a wall threatening heroic intervention now.
It doesn't cost you CP to do that, which is good because you probably wouldn't spend a CP on that to then spend a CP on the heroic. But you'll totally just get out for free.
Yeah, so they're good. I don't know if it was 85 points good, but I'm still taking a Rhino every single time I'm taking a package of 10 Berserkers.
And we've covered, we're basically taking a package of 10 Berserkers every time you're taking Kharn, and you're basically taking Kharn every time.
So, I mean, just by default, I mean, it's really awkward ranking the Rhino in the tier list, but he's going to go right next to the Berserkers, because every time you're taking Berserkers, you're taking the Rhino.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Just something like that. It's a role player. It doesn't do anything too great outside of that, but it has utility outside of it. 85 points is probably a little too high. I would agree with you. I usually find myself not spending even the 75 points for old Rhinos. I'm a bit of a cheapskate like that.
But when you compare that to like the 60 point or 65 point Toroks or whatever,
or trucks or anything like that, like I would take trucks in this army. Like I would shave 25 points and lose all the rules and just be cheaper.
All the firing deck Berserker pistols.
You fire both plasma pistols out of the top. So we got the Predator autocannon, the Predator Destructor. This guy fires a hilarious amount of shots that won't really do too much.
Yeah, his role changed. Right?
Yeah, I mean, so he got all the rapid fires. Heavy bolters are rapid fire 2. His autocannon is rapid fire like 6 instead of rapid fire 2, which is normal.
Yeah.
So this thing's firing like 20 shots plus the Havoc into infantry. Now, all of those shots are AP1. We did not get the +1 AP against non-monsters vehicles that has been the Predator Destructor's rule forever. And has made it the best Predator in basically every time you're allowed to take it. I don't see a lot of that changing. I personally, I don't know about you, I'm not particularly interested in a storm of like AP1 shooting that hits on 4s.
So the Predator used to have, and we're going to get to it when we get to, I mean, we've alluded to the Forgefiend several times. They're too close in points for me to even want to be considering one over the other, or the Predator Destructor over the other. But I think it's like 145 to 150.
Yeah.
Any situation you're spending, just find the extra 5 points and take a Forgefiend. If points shake out the way they probably should, and the Forgefiend goes up a little bit, and maybe the Destructor goes down, then we can start having a discussion over the Destructor maybe having a home. But within the Gore-Track detachment, being able to have the enhancement that lets the Rhino suppress, because the AP ability got replaced with a suppression, which is when you hit a unit, tag a unit, that unit's -1 to hit now. So you could, in a realm, take 2 Predators and that like other enhancement, and you could make your opponent's army like -1 to hit across the army, pretty much where it matters, which is cute. I wouldn't expect anything from the damage. Them being AP2 damage 3 into like Wardens was actually a pretty big decision point for the Warden player to pick for Field of Pains or not. Now they just get to ignore you entirely and just sit there on their 2s and pray they don't get cosmically unlucky. And these guys are good at killing screens, is what they're good at now.
Yeah.
Which at the same point costs, something else in this tier list is going to do that better.
Yeah, and they don't punch up into vehicles, which something else in this tier list does better. It's they had a chance to give it a rule that did something, and the suppression just never does anything. Half the time you even forget it exists. I would rather suppress something into the grave. Let me put it that way. If I'm shooting at something, I want it dead. And I don't want to just give it -1 to hit on the following turn. That's not really worth 145.
It's cute.
It's cute. It's cute. It's cute. It's a lot of shots off this thing, but like,
and for me, it would have to, for there to be a choice to take this thing, there would have to be a substantial difference in points between it and its competitor.
Yes, and there's 2
substantial.
Yeah, it's. I don't even think it's. I think it's significantly worse actually than the other Predator on this list, which I will throw up some defense of. But this one, I think like smoke just ruins it. Cover, everyone will have cover. That just ruins it too. It's just. It doesn't actually shoot, whereas we have things that do actually shoot.
I do see it being Predators are always a pet unit for a lot of World Eater players and for like 40k players in general. Maybe you will see a little bit of success with it, but I don't really see myself inclined to play one. I really want to be playing with Predators right now. I think they're one of the coolest looking models in 40k.
Yeah,
I'd say it's solid C tier. Probably behind Dad, above the Winged Daemon Prince is where I'd put it.
Above the Winged Prince. Wow.
I told you my opinion of that boy ain't high.
I am not prepared to argue on his behalf, so you got me there.
That is the content people are here for. It's to fight over what's the worst, not what's the best.
Well, neither of those are the worst, but they are certainly trying. The Predator Annihilator, I'm much more rosy on. I don't think it makes lists, largely because it also loses the competition to, the Forgefiend. But like, it's a lot of shots, right? It's not, it's 5, but like the main gun being rapid fire 2 is very funny when you also reroll wounds and damage against the closest eligible monster vehicle with an 18. So if you rock up to somebody, the only hurdle is the hit roll. Once you get past that, after you hit, that is almost certainly going to be a wound. And then if they fail to save, a high damage roll, which is nice. It just is pretty swingy because you have to be up close. You have to roll the 5 4-ups. That being said, it's 145, which is probably a little pricey. I probably want it to be like 135, 140. But I could see it. I really could. What are your thoughts?
I'm a last cannon hater. As someone who my other pet army I've been trying so far has been Shadow Legion, and I got reminded why I hate Havocs while I was trying to play Shadow Legion. Hitting on 4s is rough because that means it will disappoint you frequently.
And a lot of vehicles also have smoke, which is not
a lot of. You're hitting on 5s. There's a lot of stealth out there too. It's just super swingy. You never know what to expect out of a las cannon holder. Either they will one-shot a Demon Primarch, or they will tickle a Terminator and do 2 damage to a Terminator, right? Anything in between is uncommon. That has never happened to me. I do think that 5 shots hitting on 4s is actually just gambling. But the spike, the spike up is huge. I mean, yeah, all you got to do is get over that first hurdle, like Jack was saying. And then after that, you could be blowing something up that you have no business destroying.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things World Eaters struggle with is cracking transports and then dealing with what's inside. So having some firing support in your list that will crack an orc truck and then you go kill the tasty knobs on the inside, that's great.
It just won't do it all the time. Or even, I don't know what the odds are on this thing. Like, it should do, on average, a good amount of damage to a truck. It might even kill it on average. But
the variance in dice is going to be insane with how little you're rolling. You never know what to expect, which is my pain with las cannons in general. I would probably still keep this dude in C tier, maybe towards the top or above its cousin.
I'm going to argue for it in B. I think a pair of these things, 290 is not the end of the world in terms of cost. And if you take 2 and they converge fire on something, it just should die. And
would you rather have Angron or 3 Predator Annihilators?
Legitimately, I think I'd rather have the Predator Annihilators.
Okay, you sold me.
I'm not going to put it like high up, and I'm gonna put it over the Terminators because it's actually made my list once.
Once.
Now,
everything I hate about las cannon consistency out the window. We got this bad boy rolling up.
Very funny. 8 shots. Now, I will say, I think with the lack of rerolls to win and damage, it does less damage consistently than consistently is a weird way to put this, but then the Predator Annihilator. But it's also a Land Raider, and you got to take that into account. It doesn't die nearly as easy, and it does transport things and give them assault ramps.
Yeah, initially I saw the points on this thing were 220, and I went up to 240. And at first I was like, at 220? Oh boy, get ready for your opponent to eat 24 las cannons a turn. Was what through my head, right? Like, we have more incentive to be playing with assault ramp now after losing advance and charge. It used to be like an index. Why would you ever take a Land Raider? Rhinos are just strictly better for getting out and advance and charging. Now that you can't advance and charge without restrictions. I mean, some cases you can. Assault ramp has way more value.
Does it move 10 or does it move 12? Because I know the Redeemer moves 12 and we got a bunch of movement increases. It's 10, like an idiot.
Tell you off the top of my head. I don't know why I didn't get the angry go faster buff. But 8 las cannon shots hitting on 4s was better math than 4 las cannon shots hitting on 3s.
By a significant amount.
With the upside of you got lucky and you rolled 7 or 6 hits and now your opponent is no longer on the table in a smoking husk. Which, if our goal is just to be killing orc trucks, I think 8 las cannon shots is more than enough. Having one of these in a couple of lists actually seems not like a bad idea.
No, I think you can get away with it. Right, so you get all that weird utility from like getting out and getting back into transports. Seems interesting.
But you also just get some fire support, some decent, not great, but decent fire support.
It'll scare your opponent. When it push goes to shove, maybe it shows up, maybe it doesn't, but your opponent's gonna be like, oh my god, that's so many las cannons.
And you, on the other hand, especially because the Gore Track detachment, which we're going to get into later day, has a few strats that you can also take advantage of, like the reactive move when you get shot. Now, I'm not really enthused about a Rhino reactive moving when it gets shot, because it's going to probably be dead if something worthwhile is shooting at it. But something shooting at a Land Raider and killing it has to be much more impressive. So being able to take advantage of it there. I do think it works its way into the 8-bound detachment, just to give them a little bit of durability.
Yeah, fair. I mean, that detachment needs help.
But I do legitimately think it has a home there, just to give it a little bit of durability and some fire support to kill things that you just don't want to be wasting time on with 8-bound.
That's very
and then the Gore Track, the detachment also could look for a couple Land Raiders to spice it up. And Land Raiders are a community favorite. I certainly do not think they are utter trash garbage. And I think they are better than they were in the index.
So where would you go ahead and put them? My opinion is that I think Land Raiders are unwieldy bricks that don't really play 40k well. And the Redeemer gets over that by Overwatch being a broken mechanic that occasionally, most of the time doesn't do anything, but occasionally breaks the game. And moving quick and having good guns that are reliable at killing stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would slam 2 Redeemers in every World Eater list I could if they were in my codex.
You got access to them?
Please GW, please GW. If you're gonna give me one thing in this world, give me Redeemers.
Redeemers are a hell of a trip, man. I played with Redeemer for a long time.
I would
shots is funny. It doesn't reliably kill anything. But
it's putting you in that realm of killing small vehicles, which is where I think we want to be anyways.
Yeah.
I would argue the Leonard is somewhere in B tier. I would actually put it above the Predator Annihilator.
Okay.
Above or below the Mo, I don't know. I think it probably has more use cases than a Mo. But that's just because I am partial to a Land Raider.
I think I personally would take a Predator Annihilator before I took a Land Raider. Or you take the 39 las cannon shot variant. Okay, you take 3 Land Raiders and you take 3 Predator Annihilators, and none can stand against you.
It is a lot of shooting. If you throw in some Destructors in there too, if you really just want to double down, no one's ever going to see those melee treads coming.
That's right. One of the issues is you do have to get close to your opponent in order to get all those shots. Now 24 isn't like that close. It's not that close, but it's not like your opponent is going to step their shooting elements out cross court because they're like, all right, cool, it's 4 last cannon shots. If you poke out to shoot me, I'll poke back out to shoot you, and we can all move on with our lives. But in 24, anything can happen. You can get 1 hit, you can get 6 hits and just blast the knight into the Shadow Realm. Nobody knows what's going to happen. So your opponent is probably going to play a little cagey.
If you have a gambling addiction, that's where you go. Speaking of las cannons, we can add 3 more to our list, Jack, to our crazy las cannon list. We have the Helbrute.
6 shots, 2 shots apiece, even if you're in rapid fire.
2 shots apiece, which is a red path favorite. More if they're shooting at you. You have to count that Helbrute math. The Helbrute is just like this weird unit that kept showing up in the index because it was 130 points, which was nothing else was around that point value, like 8-bound were. But sometimes you get stuck with an 1870 point list and you'd be like, should I think about throwing a Helbrute in? And then you would. And then you'd be instantly disappointed and you'd be like, I'd rather have literally anything else. I'd rather have an 80 point Juggernaut Lord with an enhancement over this thing. It was slow moving. It was unreliable. It could go full Beyblade as soon as they made contact with something and bounced into something else. But that was kind of a meme because that wasn't consistent and your opponent could play around it.
Mm-hmm.
But now it actually received a pretty hefty glow up, right? All things considered, it moves 3 inches faster,
which is pretty.
It got the CSM treatment of +2 attacks if you have, more importantly, 2 melee weapons equipped, not just the double fist. It will lose twin linked. So on the charge, it could have, I believe, 9 fist attacks.
Yes.
Which was pretty solid. It still kept its Beyblade ability, but most importantly, it now has access to Pile and Consolidate 6. So the meme is no longer dreams. Now you actually have a feasible way to get it to activate 2 to 3 times. Would reasonably get it to activate 2 to 3 times when it goes into charge.
Yeah, if you think of this thing as like fight twice, right? You go into a target, you hit it, it hits you back. If you didn't kill it, right? It hits you back with whatever tracks or armor tracks or whatever it has. You just get to punch it again. That's a lot of offense coming out of it.
And the use case scenarios for this guy is actually pretty nuts, right? Like being able to charge something like an Orc truck or a Rhino, put 9 fist attacks into it. Maybe you kill it, maybe you don't. Then it's going to swing back. You're going to put 9 more. This time you're probably killing it. Whatever falls out, you then consolidate into and then punch 9 more times and so on and so forth. Like you can just keep the loop going. So where I see the most value on this isn't going to be trying to do the infinite ping pong pinball of just insanity, which dream on. If you can pull it off, I want to hear the best story you have. But
I know that's what pops into people's head is playing Pinball Wizard with this thing. Like
that doesn't happen nearly as much as you'd like it to.
No.
Now, the more realistic use cases is going to be rapid ingressing this thing, then going after a transport that's loaded with stuff, or the Scourge actually has an insane amount of attacks. Right, you're going to get like 12 or 13 attacks on the charge with the Power Scourge. You then charge a brick of 20 guardsmen smack a bunch off the table, consolidate into them, they hit you, smack the rest off the table.
Yep. Your opponent has to
allows
be
you to-
concerned that you're going to kill like 2 vehicles that are next to each other as well, something like that.
Yeah, you can do the hammer fist, hammer scourge, fist scourge. I'm of the personal opinion fist scourge is probably the best to give you like a functional sweep. And then you have the fist, which is still anti-tank, right? It's still high strength, flat 3 damage. If you like gambling, we have the gambling option, which is the hammer, which is hitting on 4s, but with a bunch of attacks.
9 attacks was sustained.
It is something. And it also has AP3, which is one of the weirder sources of AP3 in the book. I think there's not many, and it is one of them.
You can go to AP4 to try and get rid of some amount of variance on saves. And I believe the AP lasts for the whole phase. So if you swing multiple times.
The pinball keeps going. So I actually have a fairly positive opinion of the Helbrute. The downsides, which there are many, is that it is hard to stage. While move 9, that is not incredibly quick for a vehicle. It still has to whip around corners. And pretty much everything at its points cost in the meta will just one-shot it by blinking. We're looking at Vindicators, Fire Dragons, Dark Reapers. All of those things will just prey on this guy just walking around. It's like their ideal target is this thing.
Yeah, mid toughness, no invuln, just die.
Yep. So it's a good cheeky like one-of piece that I could see being a rapid ingress threat that just walks on the board and then wrecks havoc when your opponent wasn't paying attention. I do think it has infinitely more reason to be played than before, especially at 120 points, which is quite cheap.
That is pretty cheap. That is, its offense is not the issue. Like, it hits like a freight train once it connects. One of the harder hitting units actually in our codex once it hits, considering it basically has fight twice written on its datasheet. I've actually played with a model very, very similar to this, Murderfang. In Champions of Rust, which I've played several times, Murderfang is move 8, but advance and charge with first CP. And you can give him full rerolls to hit on 2s with sustained lethal, which is like, the full rerolls to hit with that is better than, hitting on 3s. Generically, Murderfang is significantly more expensive. And then twin linked with access to +1 AP and Lance means that you go from like, ooh, maybe your first activation kills it, to like your first activation kills it, right? 8 attacks, hitting on 2s, full rerolls, sustain lethal, wounding on 2s, full rerolls, AP3, damage 3 is get out of here.
I still barely see Murderfang seeing play.
You barely do. And you have access to 1 CP 6-inch pile and consolidate on him as well. Now, there are some differences. He is 50 points more expensive. He is OC 0. So there are downsides. The Pinball Wizard play, I've tried it. I've tried it multiple times. It doesn't really work. I had to play. I was going to go through some stuff and kill some stuff, and they just died, right? He's about the same toughness. He's actually even tougher because you have access to Armor of Contempt, and you have a 6 of Feel and Pain on him. And he'll just randomly die because they're not that tough, right? They're 8, 9 wounds, something like that?
I think they're 9, T9, 9 wounds.
Something
9.
Yeah. And Murderfang even occasionally would fail to kill something. Now, that being said, 120 is a significantly lower bar, but I just wasn't impressed with Murderfang. I put him in my list, played with him. The combo chain just didn't really appear, right? Like I could go fight something and pile into the unit behind it and hit it. But I wasn't going to kill. I was going to kill like 5 dudes because they had an invuln. Or like I would go fight something, but then I'd pile into something that's like 50-50 to kill me. So I'm like, I'm not going to do it. Made my opponent think, which is not bad, right? The more you give your opponent to worry about and have to plan their turnaround, the tighter of a bind it puts on them. But I wasn't super impressed. And it is, as you mentioned, very hard to stage this thing. Like, it moves 9. Like, we're not talking Murderfang now. Murderfang moved 8 with advance and charge. That's just better. This thing moves 9, no advance and charge, and is going to lose like solidly half of that going around the wall.
Yep.
Now, I think there is an interesting possibility that maybe 18 attacks isn't what's required to kill stuff, and you can get by on having 14, right? Just 7. And then you have like the heavy plasma cannon, so that no matter how they try to deal with this unit, they're getting hit back in some regard. Maybe the twin las. I don't know. It doesn't seem that efficient at that point.
It's quite cute in the demon detachment where you can give it the Lance Twin Link combo.
That one can hit a lot harder, for sure.
And you just need to be within 6 of the demons when you start it. It can run off and do its own thing off in the sunset, and it's still going to keep the combo as it runs away, pinballing through your opponent's army. But just to like damper people's dreams, like the pinball will happen to you once in 10 games that you play it. And sometimes the pinball won't even end up being that impressive. I still think the use case is to crack a transport pilot and kill stuff, which is unique that nothing else can do that. The fights twice is a very powerful rule.
Yep. Or fight until a dorm.
Getting it there is the hard part.
Like outside of your weight class, right? If an 120 point unit goes in, punch, does 12 damage, and then you go, they're gonna feel it. They're not gonna be very happy about that turn of events, right? An Armiger is going to die every single time to this thing.
Oh, absolutely. That's probably one of his more ideal targets.
Yeah.
But I think he's cute, but I think he actually has a solid amount of play. I do think Goretrack solves the you can't stage it problem of being able to go through a wall.
Yeah.
But now we're investing CP into making the pinball work.
Somebody CP, I promise you, in that detachment.
So yeah, and somebody else is going to want to be using the CP, and maybe not that strat, but that detachment is very command point heavy. I would put him somewhere in B tier, and I just want to caution, just say that like B tier is still a solid place to be right now as far as stuff we're talking, right?
Yeah.
B tier is not a bad tier. Like he actually has use cases, whereas before he was just straight up a liability.
Yeah, you're going to be building your list out of S and A, and then you're going to be including some amount of B in there, depending on what role you need filled. C,
Correct.
probably not. But if you need a very niche role, then maybe.
Okay, now off to the favorite dog, puppy, little cute little puppy of the Chaos community. We have the Maulerfiend.
The Maulerfiend. Yeah, the Maulerfiend got a huge glow up on its profile,
Huge.
right? Now it's moved 12 instead of move 10, which is a big difference. If you think of it as just +2 to charge, then you're on the right track. And it got +2 attacks on its main weapon.
Yeah, which was fantastic.
Still AP2. It doesn't punch that good, but whatever. But high strength, high damage, lots of attacks, which is great. Yeah.
It kept +1 to hit, but it turned into +1 to hit, +1 to charge, so +2 to charge, +1 to hit for something below starting strength.
Yep.
Is its ability, which is not really a nerf considering it got 2 inches faster.
It pairs really well with a tank shock. So you go in, you tank shock something, do like two mortals to it. All of a sudden that thing is below starting strength and now you hit on 2s. So like it basically makes tank shock read, do some amount of mortals, +1 to hit, which is a really good strat.
I'd say the Maulerfiend with a tank shock is guaranteed to kill most medium, maybe even large vehicles at the game.
Yep. Also dev wounds against infantry, sustained hits, power consolidate 6, right?
And you have, not to mention the rapid fire multi-cutters on the side of it that you could be taking.
Very funny. You rock up
6
to
multi shots.
3 inches of somebody, and like if that's a Rhino, for example, very decent odds you just kill it, right? You need 2 4s into 4s on 6 dice.
And
bye.
I used to consider myself, that was like my first self-dubbed name was King of the Maulerfiends. That was the first GT I actually did well at. I got my first like little golden ticket there. It was actually the first GT I ever went to. I was playing 2 Maulerfiends, and I would keep 1 in reserves and 1 on the table. And I learned very quickly that they were unreliable with their output. They either do 30 damage or they do 5 damage. And it's the same thing with the last cannons, because their fists are basically just last cannons. But getting the extra 2 attacks, being +1 to hit, having access to bonus AP if you're in Berserker Warband, all of that comes together to making them actually fairly consistent at popping those mid, definitely low and smaller vehicles. But those mid to high vehicles, you can actually punch up. Like, he was AP2 previously. You charged like a Hecaton Land Fortress and the Armor of Contempt or whatever that's called for them. You're just like, wow, there's like, I have to get lucky to even dent you
They
now.
roll 3-ups. Yeah, it's bad.
Now, putting them on 4s, it's a bit better. I don't know if that's enough to sell me on the model. I think it definitely has more play than it did before. And I think before it was really pushing, like, I think it was like 130 or 140 finally when they were done with it. Points cost, it started at like 180, but
Yeah.
is it now 150 now, I believe?
50. If you walk up, shoot, charge, tank shock, punch a land for it, you should kill it like basically every time.
Yeah.
It's very good. At 150, it punches up dramatically well. There's a couple of things in Berserker Warband that actually make it very attractive. One is that it's high strength, right? In Berserker Warband, you wouldn't think has an issue with that, but it kind of is an issue that none of its good units go above strength 10 on the charge. But the second one is a little more contextual, which is that one of the best ways to get around interrupt in this army is you charge like a unit in, fight with it. They then interrupt, you go -1 damage, tank the hit, and punch them anyway. Angron was very good at that role because he basically never died to a melee unit unless you were, out of your mind. If you pop -1 damage. So they pop 2 CP, you pop 2 CP, now you continue with your fight phase and everything's fine. Now the issue with doing that with especially now with 8-bound and Exalted 8-bound or even Khorne Berzerkers, is that by the time they're done swinging on you, even with -1 damage, you might not have enough of a unit left to hit them back credibly. Whereas if the Maulerfiend, if a unit of 8-bound takes half damage, it's not going to hit remotely as hard as it used to. And you might lose that fight. So their CP, your CP net to you losing a fight, that's not ideal. A Maulerfiend, Angron in the past, but a Maulerfiend now, if you charge somebody, you're high toughness. So if you charge a bunch of Custodies and they interrupt on you, and you -1 damage, you're probably living. And then you get to hit them back regardless, and you get to power through their interrupt rather than getting defeated by it, which is pretty huge, which I quite like. Also, you can stack buff some of these things really well. As you mentioned, the +1 AP, but you go into a unit of Custodian Wardens, and they pop, which used to be our bane, but is now a victim.
Not even a problem.
No, not even a problem. They pop the Forgefiend Bane. You're like, cool, I'm going to be near 8-bound, so I hit on 2s, I'm sustained hits, and I'm dev wounds. Okay? You
tank shocked and maybe peeled 2.
Yeah, you tank shock. You peel 1, you fire the Melta-Cutters, you kill 1, because they're not going to pop the 4-ups against the Melta-Cutters. They might pop it against something else.
Hold on, you're selling me on a Maulerfiend right now.
Right? You can kind of stack buffs to the point where this thing kills infantry, no issues, right? 9 attacks on the charge, hitting on 2s, sustained, dev wounds if you need it. You probably don't. I also think real charges is going to be up a decent amount of the time for your army. You get +1 to charge against something that's wounded, which will just happen sometimes. And you go in for 150 points, this thing will flip mostly whatever it touches without even needing support either, because you just tank shock and now you're hitting on 2s natively.
And for 150 points and the durability it brings, I could actually see a weird world where you're arguing its place over some of the 8-bound slots, at least until they drop.
3 Exalted or 1 for Maulerfiend, I would have expected the Maulerfiend to be more expensive, to be honest with you. And it's not. It's less.
So with that being said, I actually think the Maulerfiend is pushing top of B tier.
Okay. All right.
Would you thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I said a lot of very nice things about it, but it is still a vehicle that's very tough to maneuver around in the same way infantry are. And it hasn't been tested yet enough for me to call it A tier or anything like that. But if in 3 months we play it, we're like, damn, this thing's kind of sauce. I could see it being an A tier. I could see that. I don't see it being in C tier. I don't see it being an S tier, but I could really see it being an A tier at the end of all this.
Yep. I would probably put it above or behind Invocotus. I'm not sure. Probably behind, above the Juggernaut Lord.
Yeah.
I think is my safe spot for it.
These 3 I could see maybe being up in A tier when all said and done. Spoiler alert, I don't believe any of the data sheets left are going in B tier. It's possible. There's one I'm looking at, but
hey, I'm looking at 2.
Okay.
I won't tell you which ones.
So maybe we end up moving some of these up, because I will say it does feel like some of these data sheets, like Invocotus and maybe Invocotus and the stuff towards the bottom just don't feel quite in the same tier, but we can reevaluate as the tier list goes on.
Now, talking about, we've alluded to this monstrosity many times. Many times. And I originally was not, it was on my radar a little bit. And I've been buttered up, sold, and played a few test games with Mr. Forgefiend. And damn, this thing hits.
It hits so hard. Oh my God. What were they like? I get it, right? this is honestly what a lot of our shooting should have been, which is a lot more reliable, but it has to be up close. Like, if you try to sell me on shooting that hits on 4s, no rerolls as our only source of shooting, I'm not going to buy it, right? Like the Predator Annihilator or the Land Raider, I'm like, no, we're a melee-only army. You sell me on a self-sufficient, anti-everything shooting package that doesn't require any buffs, doesn't require any CP past Overwatch, and trust me, it's gonna be worth it.
Just why the Daemon Prince is good, because that CP economy is gonna be great, because you're gonna want to be free Overwatching with this thing.
Yep, it's why I have the Daemon Prince in the Demonkin detachment, even though he only makes 2 of those strats free. It's because you're gonna be spending stuff on like Tank Shock or Overwatch or things like that. This datasheet requires 0 support from the rest of your army. None. Absolutely none. It comes with its own rerolls baked in. It comes with a shooting profile that is good against literally any target in the game. If it's cheap infantry, you get a ton of blasts and you pick it up. If it's medium infantry, you get some blasts and you pick it up. If it's heavy infantry, you have
that's its best case scenario target,
best
right?
Case scenario. Terminators, wound on 2s, 3 damage. Get out of here. Like, just get out of this game. And then
even like it's cheeky into like those winged Demon Princes, those really annoying Emperor's Children Demon Princes flying around. Like, it will actually hurt them quite a bit.
Do you know the average number of saves you hand your opponent against a toughness 9 target?
Not off the top of my head.
5. 9 shots, 4 rerolls to hit on 4s. Yeah, we haven't even. So this thing against the closest eligible target with an 18 gets full rerolls to hit baked into its data sheet. In addition, it got rapid fire 1 on all its guns. So if you're within 18 inches, it is an average of 9 shots. So 9 shots, full rerolls to hit, 7.5 hits, wounding on 3s, 5 wounds. 5 saves kills a Rhino on average. Winged Demon that's randomly taking 6 damage off this. Really good.
And when you're overwatching with it too, you're still going to get 3-4 hits. And with the opportunity to spike to the moon, or if you pull 5, 6, 7 hits off this thing, you're randomly killing an Aspect Warrior squad that just dared to step in front of a World Eater army.
Well, yeah, with Blast, it's 12 shots on average. Like, the number of shots you get on this thing is incredibly consistent, because you're just rolling D3s, not D6s. It's very consistent, and it's very high. You're firing a 10-man squad, the average shots is 15. At 10-3-3, full rerolls to hit.
Now, if I'm being honest about it, which I am, because I have a little bit more of a cool-down take on him, I do think he definitely has scenarios where he's going to struggle. You get paired into a shooty army in your longboard, Hammer Anvil. It can be a little awkward. It's going to make you have to play a little bit more passive with them. That's definitely not his ideal environment. But if you get into a dense terrain board, into another melee army on corners, he is going, like, the combo of these guys will rip your opponent to pieces. And it'll probably be the reason why you win the game by themselves.
Probably, yeah. You just need to make sure they shoot as many times as possible. In the melee mirror,
Oh, they definitely have their flaws. Like, you still have to get within 18 to really get the damage going. Other than that, you're pretty much gambling if you're outside of 18. But again, the spike up damage is insane.
Yeah. And they do move faster than they did before. They move 10 now, not 8. And that's pretty big as well to get within 18. Go around wall, go around sides, corners and stuff, and get within 18.
You want to put 1 in reserves just in case you want to peek an angle to keep your opponent honest. It does all that. I think 2 plus Daemon Prince is a very, very solid staple, or very, very good solid staple for most of the lists that I'm building right now.
Yeah.
I think in teams, you could double down on only melee and get away with it just because you're going to fix your pairings a little bit. But in singles, the amount of mental stress it causes your opponent to have decent shooting paired with fantastic melee means they can't just screen you. They can't just move block you, right? They're going to have to worry about your Overwatch. The mental tax that this model is bringing to the table for your opponent, in addition to having still fairly oppressive melee, is incredible.
Yeah. I personally like 3 of them. I know that that's a little over the top, but like sometimes that's not the worst thing in the world, is being a little over the top. Like, they are kind of tough as well, right? They're T10, 12 wounds with an invuln. So what I found is that like in Khorne Demonkin, you have a lot of stuff that's high toughness in there. You have Skarbrand, you have the Crushers, you have the Prince. Even the 8-bound are high toughness stat. So that means when your opponent's shooting, they're like, okay, so I just got lit up by 2, 3 Forgefiends. I just got lit up by those, and my opponent crashed into my front lines. Do I focus the stuff in front of me and just take a second volley to the dome? And like, they just can't do that. But if they try to reach past your front lines and dig out T10, 12 wound invuln vehicles in cover, they're not going to get as far as they would want. And then Skarbrand or whatever frontline stuff you have is going to have real harsh words with them after that if they just ignore the stuff that's in their face.
And that's like after playing a little bit of we call it the Brosy on the Red Path, the Brosy 2K, which was 2 Brigands plus a bunch of World Eater stuff charging at your opponent. Very common dilemma your opponents would have is, do I address the 18 Exalted 8-bound in my face or the 2 Brigands that are behind me shooting me and lighting me up? Most often the answer is they're going to address the Exalted 8-bound in front of them, which just means these Forgefiends are going to get another turn of ripping whatever's in front of them to pieces. They're moving up into the middle of the board. They have decent melee. Decent. Like, we're talking like running over Crute Hounds here. But they do run Crute Hounds over very well.
Especially the tank run, right? They're good tank shock users.
I'm very impressed with them so far. I would not call them broken for us personally, because I have played a few games where I felt their flaws. But they are the best shooting platform World Eaters have by a mile.
It's not even close.
And I don't want to start the argument of, is it better than the CSM one? Based on points, you could make the argument that it is better than the CSM Forgefiend.
I think you
but
could,
it certainly can have that conversation.
You can definitely have that conversation because each one of them is 50 points cheaper and doesn't require a Helbrute and Abaddon to turn into absolute monsters. Now, they don't hit as hard as an Abaddon, Helbrute, Nurgle.
Yeah, but we're talking, this is a 150 point unit. Sometimes I don't even care if it dies. Like, it'll peek a corner, shoot at something, and then eat some aggro back and die, and then sticky an objective, and that's fine for 150 points. I'm like, I've gotten my value.
I used to take 200 point of these things just because they were 145 points, which I consider to be super cheap at the time. What an innocent time that was. I used to just take a pair of them just as like, yeah, I'll shoot long range. I'll pick away at some stuff. I'll hold my backfield. I'll hold the flank objectives while the rest of my army goes forward. And they're only 145, so I don't really care if they do anything. But they're 150 now, and they do things.
Would rock them straight to the top of A tier, in my personal opinion.
I want my boys up here.
It's your channel, so you can override me, but
I love them. They're the ones I'm going to go to the mat for in this tier list.
Fair enough.
Also,
and like I said, I'm still incredibly impressed with them, and they are making it into a lot of my lists. I do think they're valid mono melee only archetypes out there, specifically for like teams. If your goal is to go 20-0 someone and throw them in a trash can and kick it down the flight of stairs, I think mono melee is still probably the way to go in teams. Just pick a dense board and run at your opponent. But in singles, I think these guys are the bee's knees.
They're great. They also give you access to something that I think is very valuable against shooting armies, which is the ability to cut angles and shoot things in midboard without getting shot back. It sounds like you don't want any shooting into shooting armies because shooting armies shoot better than you, so you don't want to get in a shootout. And that is true. You don't want to get in a shootout with them. But what you can do is one of two things. One, they send a resource forward and they're like, send something into the middle so I can kill it. What you do is you poke the barest edge of your Forgefiend's base around the side of a building so you can see the barest edge of the front port of one of their models in the center.
And you just
shoot them. And then if they want to see you back, they have to go to where that model was, which is in charge range of your whole army or unreachable.
And the best part of like conserving these guys too for your push turn, when you finally do just say screw it and send it, and you send in your Berserkers and your 8-bound and everything else, these guys will also poke out at the same time, get their value in, and the odds of them being able to get their value in a second or third time are very high because your opponent is more than likely going to be focused on what's in front of them, currently attacking them and ripping them to pieces.
Yeah.
So a little bit of gun support in World Eaters with the right, and they did it right. I will give props to GW for this. World Eaters finally found Like, as a legion, in the books, in the lore, World Eaters are still using guns, still using armored support. I don't know where this whole World Eaters only use chain axe and only chain axe came from. Like, that's not true. And GW, I feel like, was just finding a little bit of a struggle trying to thematically find a good spot for World Eater shooting. And we found it. It was just get closer and shoot better.
Shoot better.
And I think they have a good home in our lists.
Yeah, I played a game into Tau. You'll see it on our channel. I either in the War Room or on YouTube. I don't remember. But I played a game into Richard's Tau where I had 3 Forgefiends, and they were super helpful. Because what he would do otherwise is he would lead with the barest front screen of dudes, and behind it, he put 3 Riptides, 3 Hammerheads. Right? That's what he'd normally do. And he just march up the table and say, listen, if you want to hit my screens with your shooting or with your combat, I'll kill you. I'll refresh the screens, and we're just going to keep going until eventually you give me 15s on primary. And it's very tough to beat that sort of thing without the no fallback or whatever. Whereas he had to stay back because the Forgefiends would just walk up and shoot him, and he's all toughness 9 and decent odds Forgefiend just like kill 2 of his dudes before anything happens. So he stayed kind of back. But even more so than that, if he pushes at the screens, I'll kill the screens and then I'll charge through and I'll kill the stuff behind it too. And so we got a staring contest. That never happens against Tau, ever. They just, if they're any good, they just push stuff forward and say, use your expensive resources. I'm going to blow you up. And that didn't happen.
And it's a great attitude that's a great shift tone that allows us to have in games is we can now play a slower game and still keep the pressure on. And the Forgefiends allow us to be able to play that slower game. Because sometimes we don't get to consent to playing a slow game. Sometimes there's just walls and walls of Crute, or as you're saying, like Poxwalkers or something that's stalling the game, Nurglings. Now we can actually still kind of like have something to do in those downturns.
Absolutely. So I'm a big fan of these guys. I think they give us a lot of very, very nice depth to our codex, and that we can actually play the shooting phase finally. I wish we had a couple more units that could do it in different ways, but at least he's good at shooting every data sheet in the game to some extent, right? You're not going to one-tap a Land Raider, but you're going to wing a Land Raider when you shoot at it.
Yeah, that was one of the problems we were talking about is a squad of 8-bound being strength 10. They'll rip a chunk out of the side of a vehicle, right? An 8-bound plus a Forgefiend with a little bit of shooting support might actually get you over the threshold to kill it, which is huge.
Yeah.
So
big fan.
Moving on to probably the weirdest model still in the Chaos range. We have the Defiler.
Yeah, I don't think GW knows what the heck to do with this thing.
Which I'd actually say it got a glow up.
It did. It did get a glow up, largely because it would have to, right? Like, my main issue is its size. It's just so big that you can't actually use it.
I'll show my age here as a Warhammer player. I haven't been playing the game very long, and I'm convinced this is the ugliest model in the Chaos range period. And out of principle, sometimes I won't play just because I don't like it because it's ugly. And I know that may offend some people.
Probably Soul Grinder is also up there for sure.
Yeah, but that's at least a cool looking demon thing. This thing's like a box on crab legs, which some people are all over that. But
yeah,
it does bring something unique to our roster, and that is effectively like the infiltrator role of every time you are set up on the battlefield, so deep strike or disembarking, it just gets to either shoot you or charge you, which is enough of a deterrent to keep fire dragons honest, because that's not the Overwatch token doesn't save them from these claws, right? So
no, but they do have to be set up. So like if they disembark 12 inches away and then run up to you, you don't got nothing to say about it.
Sure, but I don't think it really had a rule before.
I don't
even want to try to recall what it did because it was garbage.
A lot of the time in competitive events, you're not going to have terrain that is less than 4 inches in height in a relevant way. WTC has some sections of some ruins that are less than 4, but not most of them.
No.
And WTC terrain is so dense that I don't think it matters for this thing. And GW terrain is all above 4. So it doesn't have a rule there.
Right.
And then I'm not 100% convinced that a unit gets out of a transport 9 inches away from you and you can make a legal charge into it. I think if
it can shoot too. It can shoot too.
You can shoot. But like, it's just so, dude, it's on 130 mil base.
It doesn't have to be on a base.
That's
you
right.
don't
A soul
have to be on a
grinder
base.
has to be on a base, but this thing does not.
It's just, but okay, I'm not advocating for this thing to be competitively viable in any way. I'm just strictly saying it got better, and it was dumpster trash, and now it is probably just like this weird. Maybe it shows up and does something every now and then, but most of the time, it's rocking C tier.
Yeah, I would say it's even worse than Daemon Prince. You could not point a gun at me and convince me. They're the same points cost, by the way. If you wanted to know.
But the Defiler kills things when it charges.
Does it though? Like, is it ever going to get to charge? I don't know, man.
This is not the fights we're going to be having.
No.
So I put it in C tier, Jack. I don't care where.
I'll put it above the Daemon Prince just out of respect for your hatred of a Daemon Prince. With wings. All
right, Hell Turkey. The rejected Thanksgiving turkey that got burnt and thrown away in the dumpster. That's what this thing is. There you go. I don't see a redeeming thing that it does other than go 22 inches and charge turn 1, but it's also a lot of points for that. We don't really need to waste time talking about it. The Emperor's Children actually got I don't know why theirs got like an interesting glow up and ours just kind of got forgotten about, but that's okay because the Emperor's Children one's still kind of trash.
I mean, you can do a decent amount of mortal wounds to a fly target, but you're not going to because this thing's like, what is it, like 200 points?
Yeah, it's like 210. It's over 200 points.
Gross. It needs to drop at least 60 points before I'm willing to have some kind of a conversation about it.
All right, moving on to the Khorne Lord of Skulls. Probably one of the more confusing changes in our codex in terms of how I want to feel internally is like it was like the initial excitement, then you got hit with the MFM points, and you're like, oh,
oofda. Yeah, it went up 60 points, which felt a bit much. Granted,
it did get substantially better.
Much better. All of its guns got better if you're in rapid fire range. That's how the math works out, basically, because you weren't getting buffs on it before.
But its best gun is 72 inches or something.
Like yeah, it's 60. Function the same thing. It now got the ability. Okay, it got two abilities that are like actually massive for it. One, it now moves 12, not 8. Everything else moves +2. But this thing moves +4 over where it was before. And that is huge because it is huge and it likes to move around the board. Second thing, it can walk through walls like a knight. How it does this, I will never know. But it does teleport over the walls because it's so angry.
I feel like you should just remove the terrain piece if you move through the wall. Like I feel like that's what it should be doing.
100%. Right? Because it's definitely how it's getting there is it's driving through walls.
It's just straight spite. It's just, and it did get +2 attacks on its melee strike profile too, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds right. I think it went from like 5 babe to like 6 or 7. And on flat 8 damage, every attack matters because you only walk through.
I charged one of these things with Fulgrim in a test game and I was like, aha, I'm going to do some damage to you. And then it just put me in the dirt. So, I failed 2 saves. I guess I'm dead.
That thing I said about the Maulerfiend where -1 damage to soak and interrupt means it's actually pretty huge. You're not killing this thing in combat with -1 damage unless you're Canis Rex.
I mean, even then, like, the shooting on this thing's really, like, you got to respect it. 505 points is what it came out to, which is steep. That means, and it's durable, but it's still not durable, right? Anything that has the ability to kill a knight is still going to kill this dude. And a lot of lists build their lists based off of math to have something that can kill a knight in it.
Yeah, T13 is pretty massive, and the fact that it was faster than knights are pretty massive, but still.
Being like a full 100+ points more than a normal knight is harsh.
It is pretty harsh. You can probably make some kind of toughness skew where you take some princes, you take like a prince, you take like some amount of Maulerfiends, some amount of Forgefiends, maybe 2 predators and a Khorne Lord of Skulls. That list is probably not very good, to be honest with you. But maybe it works well in teams. Who knows? That's always the cop out, right? That's always the cop out. Maybe it works in teams.
I mean, at that point, just be playing Soulforge Warpack or whatever the Vashtor detachment is. If you're going that hard.
Yeah, probably.
So there are Khorne Lord of Skulls lists that win GTs. You had a list that won a GT in the index.
I was messing around, to be clear. It's a local, like, 40-person GT.
Doesn't matter. Oops, you 5-0'd with the Khorne Lord of Skulls. I'd say even recently, we've had a few members of the community actually do pretty well with Lord of Skulls. And it arguably did just get better.
It did go up
points were harsh.
non-zero amount of points. I mean, I'm going to check how many points it was before.
It was like mid to low 400s. I want to say like 430, 440 is my guess. Still, I think people that are Khorne Lord of Skulls enjoyers are not going to be disappointed. I think it is a archetype that will work for some people.
50, so we're at 55 points.
I do think that some lists will not have an issue at all lifting the thing, even despite all of the buffs. I do not think it is trash by any means.
No.
I am not a Khorne Lord of Skulls player, and I think people that were doing Weltham will continue to do Weltham.
I could be convinced to put this thing on the table. I think I would say it definitively got better. I think you would as well, right?
Yeah, definitively got better. I think it'll age like wine once it starts getting some points drops and cuts. It is at a weirdly spiteful points cost to not let you put it in strategic reserves. But with some time, I think it'll work its way into some lists.
Is it even small enough to be able to arrive from strategic reserves and do things?
There's a rule for that. I think that you can still place it from strat reserves. I think it is just wide enough to be able to do it.
Okay. It's big. It's a big.
You're gonna have to. Somebody's out there's gonna have to double check me on that.
But have one here. I mean, I played with it, right?
Yeah. So I would probably put it towards the top of B tier.
Yeah, I would agree. Honestly,
I don't know if it's in front of the puppy or behind the puppy in terms of the Maulerfiend. I'm inclined to say behind.
Yeah,
or ahead. That's your discretion.
Somewhere in there. Ultimately, it doesn't like particularly matter. We get the idea. I think if you look at a list across from you and it has a Khorne Lord of Skulls and you go, "Brr," you are gonna get run over. Like that thing.
You have to respect that thing. It will just run you right over.
Dome you. Like it goes in with 7 attacks in Berserker Warband. It's strength, yes. AP, no. Damage, and you just get pasted. Or has 19 attacks at 10-2-2 on the charge. 10-3-2 if you want.
With respectable enough shooting that if you don't like, it can just lift 2 things in one round of shooting. Just do 100%. The Skull Hurler in one direction and like the Doom Cannon of Hell on its chest that will lift something else. Like the Demon Gore.
It's D6 shots blast with rapid fire 3. So if you're within, now admittedly 9 inches, but that's 21 inches with a 12-inch move and a shoot. It's D6 plus 3 shots. It's strength 14, AP 4, D6 plus 2 damage. So.
Yeah, whatever's in front of it's gone. It's just a crater. And like it wants to be driving into the middle of the board anyways.
Yeah. So it basically has a little Predator Annihilator in its chest, another little one on its arms, and it's swinging around 2 Maulerfiends in combat.
I want to see a kit bash of that now.
Sick.
So with that, we're pretty much done with everything that has the World Eater keyword.
Yes. A lot of stuff in the middle, which I think is fine. You grab from that, grab bag as you need specific resources or something to build around, right? Like in the Demon Detachment, the regular Lord is significantly better. In Gore Track, a lot of these vehicles, a lot of transports get better. If you're building around particular things, some of this stuff gets better. You need some screens cleared. There's some Terminators for you. You need a cheap missile. There's Invo. Like you got some options. And A and S tier are going to be what you're building most of your lists out of, and they are good units through and through.
Yeah, I think my go-to list right now includes every single unit in S and A tier with, like Jack was saying, I cherry-picked a little bit of B tier to round out my list. And I think going forward, I'm actually pretty confident in how we have S and A. Maybe some stuff can get moved around, but I feel like the Codex has much better internal balance than the Index. The Index always fell on, well, Eightbound and Exalted Eightbound are just better, bring them instead. Now, you can have arguments over roles for what actually fulfills roles better. From B tier, and a lot more of the B tier units will be poking their heads up. Like in Gore Track having multiple Moes, or if you had some weird Helbrute whole skew, or you want your Lord of Skulls or Mauler friends, all of that does actually have a home in a good competitive World Eater list.
Yeah, absolutely. I like what they've done with a lot of these units, to be honest with you. I think they took some of the power out of the army role, although not always. Custodes players would rather you advance and charge and did not have dev wounds against them, I promise you. And then they bled it across into like 4 good detachments, and there's the Grotmus one, which you can pull from. There's, Slaughterbound, whatever. We'll get into that. We're going to do a video, actually, we're going to record it right after this, where we go over all of the detachments, so stay tuned for that. That one's going to be a lot of fun. Also, we go over the detachments, we rank them, talk about which ones are the best. I've seen a lot of doomering on the internet, and this happens all the damn time. Like, people see a codex come out and they see, oh, what is that? Well, Exalted Eightbound are no longer in S tier and Angron got slapped around. Okay, book's bad, let's move on. And once you're in that mindset, everything looks bad, right? You're like, oh, strength 4 Berserkers. Yeah, that's not fun, but you have things that you can do about that. You have like utility that it gained. You have damage it gained in other ways, which is very interesting. So like, I'm super stoked to play with this book, right? Yeah, I mean, the current list for the index, right? RIP is 21, for me at least, is 21 8-bound Angron. With trash in there to skirmish and play. You have Invo, you have other stuff. You're not going to see lists like that. What you're going to see is a lot better rounded lists that look cool and play cool and have other things that they do. So I'm looking forward to that.
My current list has only one datasheet I'm using a full 3 times. The rest of it's pretty like spread out and balanced and pulling from just everywhere. And like I said, I think the points may be slightly off so far with some of the World Eater units, just because we're getting some legacy costs coming over from the index and some advanced and charge trauma bleeding over. But like I said, I think the codex will age like wine. I would rather have solid rules, bad points, than bad rules, good points.
Yeah.
You never want to be in the position that Index Death Guard were in, where they just kept dropping everything to the floor until it became viable, right? We don't want to be there. And we're not there. It's not even comparable to that.
No, we have great rules, great detachments with a lot of stuff in there that's awesome.
Yeah. And in no way are we the Dark Angels Codex or something like that on launch. They needed a lot of rework, and now it's powerhouse of a codex and army. But on release, it was kind of just like, ooh, let's just play Gladius instead.
I literally had to revamp the data sheets themselves just to be like, please, God, do some damage.
Please, yeah. And we don't have anything in this codex that is screaming for a rework other than maybe Angron. But I can get by with one really unforgivably bad data sheet out of 30 if you count the demons.
Yeah, it's 30 data sheets all told because I had to count them up to make sure we had all of them. Speaking of the demons, there is the ability to take 5 demon data sheets if you run my personal favorite detachment out of the bunch, the Khorne Demonkin.
As we're ranking these, obviously we're going to do them within the context of the Demonkin detachment, because like you may be like, oh, Bloodletters, oh, they kind of like a weird data sheet, but Bloodletters slap within Demonkin. Yeah. So we'll get to that when we get there.
If you want to get your screenshots of what our tier list is without going specifically into Khorne Demonkin, here you go. This is what you're looking for. But let's talk about some Khorne Demonkin.
So what Angron could have been is Skarbrand coming right out the gate.
He's 80 points cheaper. He advances and charges natively. He's quite tough, and he hits like an absolute freight train. He doesn't do very much else. But I don't need
he has relevant abilities. The +1 attack aura is better than anything Angron can offer.
Okay, there was another way to put that made me less sad.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, making the Crushers 3 attacks base is huge. Making the Bloodletters 3 attacks base is huge. And he buffs himself too, so he's 9 attacks base. And if he's wounded, he's 11 attacks. So he's not -1 to hit, which is one way that a monster can really like get dinged is, oh, you're on your last legs? Well, hope you enjoy hitting on 3s, so you roll a little bad, you didn't kill anything. Well, no, he still hits on 2s, and he's 11 attacks then on his smash, and several on his sweep. I forget exactly.
And you're just gone. You're just gone. If he's pissed and he's attacking you, you're just gone.
Yep. The detachment can give him Lance, which is all he needs to flip any unit on its head. No questions asked.
He's not having an issue killing anything. Even without Lance, he's probably picking up that tank and throwing it on the next table over.
Yep. Probably kills 2 tanks even.
You could split it. Yeah, you could split attack him easily and kill 2 tanks. I'm a huge fan of him. I think if I'm running a Demonkin list, I'm playing a Bloodthirster or him, and I think he usually wins that argument more often than not.
I would say, yeah, to the point where I think him existing only in Demonkin is by itself a draw for me to want to play Demonkin. Berserker Warband is very good. I don't know which one's better. We'll talk about that. But
yep.
I think that it does have an issue that it struggles to get above strength 10. Because a lot of the good data sheets are strength 8 with +2 on the charge. And like you can get around that. You're not going to have trouble like killing stuff if you try, but you have to try, right? You have to come up with things that can punch above strength 10 or sheer number of attacks at strength 10 that still get the job done. Skarbrand does not have that problem. He points at a thing, doesn't matter if it's a Dorn, and it is gone. And it's very nice to have that just click delete button in an army like this. And he's not expensive. He's 305. He's toughness 11 with 20 wounds. Like, he is.
That's hard. That's hard to shift. And if they fail to shift him, they're just gonna die.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. And any buffs you give him, any. And I think in that detachment, you rush Lance, and you get Lance up immediately, so you get twin linked on the rest of your army, on the World Eaters as well. Any buff you give him means he's an absolute killer.
Oh, yeah.
So big fan of Skarbrand. Yeah, he's mostly a big brick you hit your opponent with, but nobody wants to get hit with a brick. I promise you.
No, and he's not a horribly expensive brick either.
No.
So he does what Angron used to do really well in the Index, which was go out, blow something up, and then be incredibly inconvenient to kill, take all of your opponent's intention, and if they fail to kill him, you kind of win the game on the spot.
Bingo. And if they do kill him, we get to keep playing the game.
Yep. And he's cheap enough that I can tolerate that. Moving on to
the Bloodthirster. The Bloodthirster is okay. Like, he's not bad. He's exactly the same cost as Skarbrand. Things he does better than Skarbrand, he flies. Things he does worse than Skarbrand, everything else.
He does have to keep mortal wounds.
He doesn't.
They are cute.
They are. He has 2 fewer attacks on his face, and he gets worse when he gets degraded, not better.
Yeah, and the primary issue you're going to be running into when you're building your Khorne Berzerkers list is that you only get 1,000 points to play with. After you throw in your 6 Bloodcrushers, a couple dogs, a few Bloodletters, you really only have space for Skarbrand or the Bloodthirster. So the argument really is going to come down to which one are you going to pick. And I think Skarbrand, like you said, is just head and shoulders better.
Yeah. So I think he's not like terrible. I might include him if Skarbrand didn't exist, but I've never really thought about it because Skarbrand does exist.
Correct. And they're the exact same point cost. So there's like pretty clear cut which one's better than the other, and that one's going to be the one that wins for going in the list. Now, you can be a psychopath out there and take Skarbrand and 2 Bloodthirsters in a list and just rock that across the table with the Lord of Skulls and Angron and just have like just a lot of meat on the table.
Oh my God, you can run all that. That's crazy.
Yeah, you can. And a little bit of scoring support. You're basically just like, dare I say, a better version of Monster Mash Demons at that point, because your monsters kill their monsters.
You'll kill the crap out of their monsters. Guos fighting Skarbrand, fighting Angron, even Weakened Angron are not going to enjoy that fight.
Oh, I think I may have just signed myself up for a fun RTT list there. So,
also, the Lord of Skulls punts a Greater Unclean One into the sky so fast.
Oops, you failed a couple saves. Get off my table.
You failed 2 saves? That'll be 24 damage. Thank you very much. Bloodletters are not a great data sheet on their face. But luckily, if we're examining them in the context of one detachment, we get to look at the best stratagem in the book. And the best stratagem in the book.
I think you're being humble.
One of the best stratagem in the game.
I'd even say maybe the best.
It could be. It is busted. It is busted.
And we're probably going to go way more in depth in the detachment review because there are so many. It's like Pandora's box of crazy things that you can do with these guys.
Yeah, so that's a great. Actually, you should check that out whenever that does in fact come out. I'm not sure which one of these videos is coming out first.
But briefly, we can say that they're Incarn. They're Incarn Bloodletters for 1 CP. Anywhere you want, anytime anything dies, Bloodletters can exist.
Yep.
And the implications of that are probably too much for us to break down in a reasonable amount of time for a tier list video, but they are nutter butters good.
Yes. I will just give a little case study, which is I played Richard and I charge mortaled out one of his Sagittars. And so, because of that, in his backfield, I spawned a unit of Bloodletters, and then I charged and took his home objective. That's bananas.
For the low price of 90 points and 1 CP, you can have an Incarn too. Moving on to their mounted cousins, the Bloodcrushers.
They are also quite good. Largely because they can get joined by a Lord who, at least in the current way the rules are written, gives them Blessings of Khorne. He loses the World Eaters faction keyword, but he does not lose Blessings of Khorne, and so the unit has it. I think that's super cool because I think the unit without Blessings of Khorne is not that exciting.
Yeah, and ideally what you're going to be wanting here is what Jack just alluded to was you're going to charge something mortal wounded to death, spawn some Bloodletters in, use those to charge something else, and then pile in 6 with your Bloodcrusher squad. That is like the best case scenario with these guys. I mean, you can let them go through walls, which is a huge detriment that they had previously. That's why Demonic Incursion had a lot of success with them just deep striking within 6 because you just don't have to worry about walls. Well, if we don't have that, we need a better delivery system. So rapid aggressing these guys behind a wall and just going straight through it is fantastic. They're durable. T7, 5-up invuln, 4 wounds. It's a very awkward breakpoint for a lot of things. Any source of mortal wounds in an army is fantastic in general, as Emperor's Children will show you.
And made the good version of it where you just have to tag a unit with one guy and then you can just channel the entire unit's mortal wounds through that one dude.
Oh, yeah. And then you're putting an obscene amount of attacks down after that, right? You're putting 4 attacks per Crusher just from the mount. And then you're getting 2 attacks per Bloodletter. And then the Chaos Lord on top, or the World Eaters Lord, is adding his extra spicy damage to attacks on top.
Oftentimes with sustained or Deviant's Infantry or +1 attack off of Skarbrand. And you're going to mess something up, especially with the charge mortals. Like you'll kill, I would hate to be Wardens again. To bang that drum.
This is a great timeline to be in, where Wardens are no longer a fear for us.
Yeah, you charge in and you just kill 2 of them with charge mortals, and you're like, where's your 4 at now?
You get to tell me where. And I would say these guys are probably more auto than the Bloodthirster at the moment in time, as rules are being interpreted, with the Juggernaut Lord being able to give them blessings, having that mortal wound support. I would probably, these are the first things I'm slapping into a Demonkin list as soon as I'm putting one together.
Now, I will say, I don't think you take units 2 or 3. They're big, they're unwieldy, they're chunky. They really want the Lord.
Nope, they probably deserve a point cut, honestly. I know that,
You want to put them up? I'm down to put them up.
I'm putting them up. I think they're the first thing going into a list. Actually, obviously the Bloodletters are, but I think they probably could come down a little bit in points. I don't think they're incredibly oppressive for their points. I think it's just that one combo with the Lord that lifts them up.
Yeah, they become good. I think after that, I agree. I would want a points cut before I really consider them. They're unwieldy without the ability to run through walls pretty severely, and they're huge, so they get shot on the way in.
Yep.
And finally, I mean, the puppies, I know what you feel like about these guys, and not without good reason.
They're the best scarring piece in the game. You start.
They're fast.
Move fast.
They re-deep strike every turn.
They re-deep strike. They puppy downy is what we call it, or up dog. You take your pick for your poison on that one. I will drive you nuts if I'm playing these and you're next to me at a table, because I'm going to say up dog so many times.
What's up dog?
And I'm not sure. How about you?
Oh.
The up dog combo is really good. Oddly enough, you can attach the Juggernaut Lord to these things. I don't know why you ever would, because you just have a better option, but you can attach the Juggernaut Lord
to
the up dogs. Maybe if Juggernauts get nerfed into oblivion, you can have your up dog Lord of what's up dog.
You can still up dog the Crushers too in that detachment, and go for a drop 8 charge, which is, if you got to go for YOLO charge, 8's the way to do it. Also, you can res models in the Crushers, whatever. We're talking about the dogs now. We're talking about the dogs. My bad.
So we're talking about the dogs. So the dogs have a cute little flamer. Whatever. Never expect much from it, but it could just torch some elves. They are decent in melee. Like, they can run stuff down and murder them. It is 15 attacks hitting on 3s at AP strength 5. So there is some actual argument to, like, just going aggro with these guys. Go kill cultists, go kill elves. They do that, and they also give you perfect secondaries.
Yep.
You cannot draw a dead secondary other than, without your opponent's interference, with assassinate hiding in the back or bring it down hiding in the back. All of those chores secondaries, your up dog's got that covered. Yeah. So I have a very high opinion of them. If I'm doing a Demonkin list, I'm gonna try to get 2 squads in. 3's probably overkill. I can find myself a lot of times not knowing what to do with all the good boys. They're running around and maybe too many chores to do, or not enough chores to do, too many dogs, but I have a very high opinion of them.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that a pretty sizable reason why I think Demonkin is really good is because look at those data sheets you get 1 data sheet you probably don't take. Okay, cool. But 4 that you do, and you're going to hit 1,000 points, And realistically, the reason you don't take more is because you hit the cap. You hit the limit. You can't take more than 1,000 points of demons, even if you want to.
Yeah, I'm trying to cram more Bloodletters into that list, and I can't. So, again, we'll get into all of that nonsense because, as Jack alluded to, it actually has an argument for being one of the better, if not the best attachment as of the recording of this video for World Eaters.
Well,
I think it gives Berserker Warband a solid run for its money.
that is our tier list. This is what we think of all the units. Brian, tell us about the Red Path.
Yeah, guys. So this was awesome to be on here, Jack. Thanks for having me on. The Red Path, we like to be a good community for any hobbyist, enthusiasts, gamers that just are interested in the Blood God Khorne. We do everything from memes to competitive insights to hobbying insights. Like Dara is probably one of the best painters out there when it comes to this hobby. And he puts all of that love and attention into his World Eaters, how to kit bash. If you want to make more Slaughterbounds, but you don't want to buy 3 Battle Force boxes, he has a video for you. If you want some competitive insights for how to weaponize that 6-inch pile-in and consolidate, which is a hell of a strat or a blessing, and it's going to take a little bit of getting used to, even for me. It's a great place to go. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be on here. And
No, it's great to have you on, get your opinions of the new World Eater stuff. I mean, if you want to hear anything about World Eaters, you got to go to the Red Path for sure. So thank you for coming on. And this was a blast to do. And hopefully you all at home enjoy this. If you want to see more videos like this, you can check out thewarroom.vhx.tv. There's a free 3-day trial down the link below, or just subscribe to our channel. We'll be putting out videos like this all the time. And, if you disagree with any of us on our, placement of any of our units, and I'm sure that you do, everyone has their own tier list in their head, please tell us down in the comments below what you think. What do you think we missed about a unit? What do you think we're overvaluing? Please let us know. And see you all next time. Bye-bye.